Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow literature enthusiasts, welcome to the second day of the Shoolini Spring Fest. As we continue to immerse ourselves in the boundless ocean of words and ideas, we are honored to have with us today a luminary whose pen wields both the power of prose and the might of politics. Mr. Tuhin Sinha, a prolific writer whose words have ignited minds and stirred hearts, is here with us today not only as a literary figure, but also as a key leader of a political party. With a flair for storytelling, Mr. Sinha has penned several thought provoking novels, including The Edge of Desire and Of Love and Politics, which delve into profound human emotions intertwined with societal and political landscapes. His literary contributions not only entertain, but also stimulate critical thinking on contemporary issues. Simultaneously, he has made significant strides in the realm of politics, leveraging his platform to advocate for social change and justice. As a dynamic political leader, he has served as a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, playing an active role in shaping public discourse and policy formulation. With a seamless blend of literary finesse and political acumen, Mr. Tuhin Sinha continues to leave an indelible mark in both the literary and political landscapes of India. His presence here today is a testament to the enduring power of literature to shape our thoughts and inspire change. Let us open our minds and hearts to the wisdom he has to share as we continue our journey through the realms of imagination and intellect. I welcome you, Mr. Sinha, and I welcome all of you as we embark on another day of discovery, dialogue, and celebration of literature in all its forms.
Esteemed organizers of the Slit Fest, the founders of Shoolini University, my esteemed panelists, other participants over here, and fellow students. It's a great honor to be here. As you are all aware, we are at the cusp of proceeding into what is going to be a historic elections, which in all likelihood is probably going to throw up one of the biggest mandates in the last 4 to 5 decades. So before I come to the main topic, it's a small request to all of you. You must all vote in large numbers. That's your fundamental right. And also because this time, unlike the politicians, unlike the leaders who will do all the slogging, your choice is very simple. You don't have much to think about. On the one hand is a leader and a party who's talking about Viksit Bharat. On the other hand, you have somebody who is constantly, trying to remind you of your caste. So in fact, I thought I would ask Ashuji, when you were inviting panelists or when you were inviting speakers, did you give adequate attention to jitni abadi utna hak, and did you make sure that all the castes were adequately represented among the speakers? I'm sure you did not manage to do that. So imagine you have somebody who wants to take the country ahead 20 years, and you have on the other side people who are meaning to drag the country back 20 years. So I think your choices are simple. And so anyway, coming to the topic, literature for Viksit Bharat is very important because as students, and in fact, I'm sure Many of you may be related to students because over here I don't see too many students. They're probably at the back. But as students, this is the best time to be in India. When we entered the campus of Shoolini University, in fact, my colleague Rami immediately mentioned that, it seems to be like any of the best universities abroad. It's a great time to be in India because the next 20 years the next 20 years are going to witness changes which have not been witnessed in the last many, many decades. And when the country is moving ahead, surging ahead, with very focused goals towards Viksit Bharat, towards a $5 trillion economy in the next 3 years, and potentially a $35 to $40 trillion economy in the next 20, 25 years, it becomes an imperative that we have quality literature supporting this movement, supporting this historic movement. And when I talk of quality literature supporting this historic movement or historic surge of India, it need not be political at all. I would dwell over here upon the SICH focus, which I often talk about. SICH, and you can add SIECH. S is for security, national security. So if you compare India's preparedness in dealing with global challenges, and there are a lot of geopolitical challenges which India, with its vast, borders bordering different countries, faces. A lot of things have taken place in the last 10 years which have fortified our security, whether it is massive expansion of roads and infrastructure along the borders. For example, we just, in fact, the latest book which I have come up with, Modi's Northeast Story, about which we will be discussing subsequently, that delves into the infrastructure creation in the bordermost and the most far-flung areas of Arunachal Pradesh. So imagine areas which had been neglected for the first 60, 65 years, suddenly when the bordermost village, which would be even 500 kilometers away, perhaps from Itanagar, the last capital, the capital of Arunachal Pradesh, when they become the hub of development, imagine the implication it is, the positive implication it has, not just on India's security interests, but also the sense of belongingness it gives to all those people living in those areas who virtually felt abandoned all these years. So imagine a place called Kitibu, if I'm not mistaken, that's pronounced as Kitibu, or it's the easternmost village of India. Imagine it having the best 5G connectivity. Imagine it, getting tap water connection, and tap water connection is not easy in the hilly terrain. So I think that is how people living in borders have been given a sense of belongingness. When I talk of security, in the last 10 years, obviously most of you look old enough to remember what used to happen between 2005 and 2008, when there would be a big bomb blast on an average every 40 days. And the government then, what would they do? Their first reaction would be to complain to the US and be a crybaby and say, why is US not doing enough to sanction Pakistan? Now, what is the equation that India has with US? We are setting a partnership where the interest of our country, strategic interest of our country, comes first. Pakistan stands decimated, and that Pakistan's decimation is not a fluke. Whether they were brought under the FATF sanctions, whether the Islamic world has started opposing, even within the Organization of Islamic Countries, as Pakistan stands isolated today, I think a lot of deft diplomatic maneuvers have gone into it. So when I talk of security, literature around this theme would be a good referral point for future generations. I stands for infrastructure, and you can add economy to it. At a time when most global economies are dwindling, are struggling to maintain a basic a very basic growth rate, if in the last quarter India recorded an 8.4% GDP growth, and imagine the effect of infrastructure creation and effect of infrastructure creation has not even begun to fully optimally show up in the economy. The effect of the PLI schemes, the manufacturing impetus has not even begun to fully show up. So probably 2 to 3 years down the line, an 8% annual GDP growth would become a norm. And this is likely to go on for at least the next 5 to 7 years. And hopefully with continued leadership, with the regime continuing, and with the jitna abadi utne haq people being permanently in the opposition, the country is only going to grow more exponentially from here. Infrastructure creation. I was speaking to the chauffeur, the person who was driving me up here, and he was talking about his days in the early 90s when they would have one government bus or two government buses ferrying them to school, one at 6 a.m. in the morning and one at 9 a.m. because the roads would only support that much traffic. And today, when you look at the roads connecting Chandigarh to Shoolini or across the country, I think India has seen the biggest infrastructure revolution in its history. And also the pace at which it has been created. In management, there is a term called the bag model, big, hairy, audacious goal. So you set very stiff targets for the country, or you set very stiff targets for your organization, and make the people and give this challenge to the people to really live up to that deadline or to that target. You may or may not be able to fulfill that or live up to that target in toto, but at least it brings out the best in you. It brings out the best from the country. I think these things need to be documented for future generations, because I think India right now is witnessing a leadership model which it had not, at least throughout independent India, throughout the journey of the last 75 years. And CH and H stands for culture and history. When we talk of culture and history, I recently completed a trilogy on our subaltern warriors, the tribal warriors. The first book of that series was The Legend of Birsa Munda. The second was a collection of 17 stories called The Great Tribal Warriors of Bharat. And the third was a book called Siddho Kano, which details a freedom movement in 1855, 2 years prior to the 1857 revolt. And in fact, if you read about the 1885 revolt, which is called the Hool Revolution. Hool in the Adivasi language stands for revolt. So if you actually, read up about that revolt in terms of scale, it was no less than the 1857 revolt. But then, because it was a subaltern movement and subaltern history was never documented adequately, it never got its recognition. So I think when we talk about culture, our definition of culture is rooted in Indianness. And it is important to bring out these stories. I'll tell you why. Because people need to know that India's freedom movement did not start with the formation of the Congress Party in 1885. It dates back to 1783 or even beyond that, when tribal leaders would fight the Britishers, even in smaller areas and smaller geographical areas, and would keep hurting the Britishers and keep circumventing their expansion plans. These books and this narrative is also important because you suddenly have people questioning the contribution of Savarkar and other freedom fighters. You have people trying to divide freedom fighters between our freedom fighters versus your freedom fighters, which is very unfortunate. So the people who are questioning Savarkar today, what's the guarantee that over a period of time they will not question Birsa Munda, they will not question Lachit Borphukan, they will not question Siddho Kano? So I think history needs to be more expansive. It needs to be more democratic. needs to involve the contribution of those people whose contribution has hitherto not been recognized in the country. And that is where these narratives are very important. When I speak of Birsa Munda, an equivalent of Birsa Munda is Lachit Borphukan, who fought against Aurangzeb. In fact, 17 times, if I'm not mistaken, 17 times he fought against Aurangzeb, and because of whom the Mughal Empire could not enter the Northeast. I think these are the real heroes. Unfortunately, in our growing up years, history was taught from a very colonial mindset. So I think these corrections are important. That is what I mean from culture and history. So I think I would leave it at that with this thought that security, culture, security, infrastructure, and economy, culture, and history, these should be they should lay the foundation of future literature. I think gone are the days when we would romance povertarianism. Gone are the days when we would thrive on painting doomsday picture for the country. That inferiority complex needs to be weeded out from people's mind, from people's psychology. We are one of the most progressive civilizations. And I think the students need to grow up believing that. Those who are casting their vote for the first time, you know, those in the age group of 18 to 22, they would be the torch bearers of this economic resurgence, this cultural resurgence that India is witnessing, and which would only expand and grow over the next 2 decades. So I wish you the very best. And if more literature can be curated, absolutely non-political, and if by default it happens political, then obviously, the culprits are those people who have been pulling the country down for many decades. So you should not be regretting that. So thank you very much and wish you the very best. Thank you. So let me just take 2 more minutes because I think the succeeding discussion is on the book on the Northeast, and this politics of otherization, which some people had propagated for many decades. When I talk of otherization, we were made to believe that Kashmir is a distinct place. Kashmir is Kashmir is very different from India, and otherization this otherization created a lot of problems for Kashmir, for India, which could have been settled many decades ago. The same people had propagated this mindset over the years that Northeast is a completely different entity. We should keep it ignored. We should not develop it, because if you develop it, if you invest in it, it would create more problems. So we've recently brought out this book, Modi's Northeast Story, which essentially chronicles the transformation of the Northeastern states in the last 10 years. And it has wonderful contributions from the Assam Chief Minister, Himanta Biswa Sharma, because the idea was to involve those people and get a first-hand perspective from those people who have either been at the forefront of ushering in this change or have witnessed it from very close quarters. So Pema Khanduji, the Arunachal CM, has written a chapter. Kiran Rijjuji has written a chapter. There's a chapter from Rami Desai, an anthropologist who has invested a lot of time, in fact, the last 1.5 decades in the Northeast, studying the Northeast. And this book should again make it very clear for every Indian that Northeast has intrinsically, has age-old civilizational connect with India. Rukmini, who was married to Bhagwan Krishna, came from Arunachal. And in fact, even till date, you have a ritual in March end or April, it changes every year according to the Hindu calendar, where people from Arunachal travel all the way to Gujarat as Baratis of Rukmini to celebrate that event. Manipur has been the land of Chitrangada, the warrior princess who Arjun had married. But somehow over many decades after independence, we were made to believe that that's a separate land, and to keep them with India, you would need to, give a lot of leeway, allow a lot of things to happen, a lot of things which were not conducive for national interest. I think this politics of otherization needs to end, and that is where that book is very important. So with this, I would wind up my session and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful keynote on India and its developmental trajectory. I would now like to request Khosla sir, Saroj ma'am, and Ashu Khosla ma'am to please felicitate Mr. Sinha. We now move on to our next session, The Rise of Seven Sisters, Transformation of the Northeast India. The panelists of the session are Mr. Tuhin Sinha and Rami Desai, who will be in conversation with Mr. Vipin Pabbi. Rami Desai is an author, anthropologist, and a scholar of the Northeast region of India. She focuses on ethnic identity, tribal issues, and insurgency. She also comments and keeps track of developments on the Indo-Pacific and current affairs. She regularly writes in all major newspapers and is a panelist on Hindi and English news channels. In conversation with them will be Mr. Vipin Pabbi, who's a senior journalist and political analyst. He served the Indian Express as an editor for 36 years, and he's the author of the widely acclaimed book Shimla, Then and Now, a book on the summer capital of the Raj from an Indian's perspective. He's currently a freelance journalist and appears on TV shows to discuss contemporary issues. He's also heading the School of Journalism and New Media at Shoolini University. So the session is over.
Thank you. Thank you indeed, Navreet. But it promises to be a very interesting session. And I have so far not shared screen, TV screen with Tuhin, although I have done it with several of his contemporaries and several other national spokespersons of BJP. But this session is on his book. So we'll keep politics, discussion on politics later, maybe individually or on the screen sometime. So I must tell you that it's a very good perspective that you will be getting here for the one reason that I had served in the Northeast for 3.5 years. I was posted there as a correspondent of the Indian Express in the 80s. I was there from 83 to 87, or 85 to 89. And probably neither of you might have been born or must have been toddlers at that time. Okay. But the point is that I have that old perspective of 35 years ago. That was 35 years ago. And I've seen that area. I've covered it extensively. I've covered all the 7 states at that time, now 8, very extensively. And I've seen those insurgencies in Nagaland and Manipur and Tripura and Mizoram, Assam, of course, was so everywhere. It was, that was a hotbed of politics and violence. There's no doubt about it. And there has been these 30, 35 years, there's been a lot of transformation as I read in papers, see on TV, and also hear from my friends in the Northeast, the kind of transformation that have taken place. And I must also tell you about one particular thing when I was there. And that was, as I said, 35 years ago. And there was no BJP there. There was no one, no MLA, no one from BJP. Yet, RSS was very, very strong underlying. Its leaders, its top leaders, its top RSS chiefs had been visiting Northeast at that time. And how I know is because I was a news person and they would be also meeting me. So I know how much hard work has gone into it and how much RSS had worked. And now finally they are, they have governments in various parts of Northeast. So it has been a very long journey. It has been over 30, 35 years journey that they have brought in here. But as I said, this discussion is on the book, and we will discuss about the happenings that are taking place. But before the book, just a personal question, and that is, how do you balance out the two? You're the national spokesperson of BJP as well as an author, and you've written on a variety of subjects. So how do you balance out this, and are there some constraints?
Thank you, sir. It's very easy, actually. If your thought process is nationalist, in fact, even before I joined politics, I have written political thrillers, 3 of them, Of Love and Politics, followed by The Edge of Desire and The Edge of Power. So when you subscribe to a nationalist thought process, the issues still crop up. There are many people in the audience over here who may not be affiliated, or most of them would not be affiliated to a political party. But I think most of them would also have a clear line of thought when it comes to national interest, when it comes to the country. So as an author, I subscribe to that thought process. And I don't, whether I were in politics or I were not in politics, that would have anyway existed, that thought process. As the national spokesperson right now, honestly, my writings are an extension of my overt political thoughts, because that's one difference that has happened in the last 1 year. And I'm very unapologetic about it, because like I mentioned, a government and a party which has been at the forefront of a lot of positive transformation that India has witnessed. A party and a government which has a vision for the next 20 years, unlike the opposition which doesn't have a vision for the next 20 hours. I think everybody should be happy to.
Well, as I said, more on the book. Excuse me. But Rami, turning to you, you're a theologian and you have worked there in Guwahati and you started. So my question is, what is hampering the closer ties between the Northeast and the mainland, so to say, in inverted commas? Over the years, I have seen, and it is true even now, that there is not that much of interaction as we have in other parts of the country. And here also we have a lot of students. One of my students is from Nagaland, and she had done a piece recently, which we published in our newsletter, also saying how they're discriminated against, how still some of them are called Chinese and whatever, all kind of things. So this has been, what is all that is hampering closer ties between the regions, between the northeastern region and the other regions of the country?
So, how many days do I have to answer this question? Because this question demands, a great amount of discussion, because it clearly is one of the most important questions that faces India today. But before I answer that question, let me take this opportunity to thank Mr. Khosla, Ashu, for putting this festival together, for inviting me. Your students have been so polite, so precise. And I really hope a literature festival like this grows in size and becomes really the center point of, intelligentsia. We need so many more platforms like this. And I'm so glad that a subject like this was chosen on Tuhin's book. We haven't had something like this for a while right now. But like you said, I'm a theologian, I'm an anthropologist. I specifically chose these subjects. I went to England to study because of this question as a child in my mind, that Northeast, why is it so psychologically distant to us? I could travel to the south of India, I could travel to the west of India, but nobody and we also children from the 80s, none of us ever thought of going to the northeast for a holiday. When I came back from England after 10 years and I started going to the northeast for my field work, I used to have people, and I've written this in my chapter, half jokingly ask me, but what are you going to do there? What are you going to eat there? Or are they going to eat you? This was only half jokingly, So it says a lot about the psychological distance, but you have to go back into history to understand why a lot of these things happened. And because I studied these subjects, I had and please allow me 2 minutes because there can never be a short answer to this. I realized that from the basics, we have got it wrong. The policies that we had in the Northeast, the way the Northeast was geographically isolated, it's attached to the rest of the country with a 22-kilometer corridor, which is called the Chicken's Neck, which made connectivity so much more difficult, but also made a psychological difference between them and us. But you'll be surprised to know that when the colonialists finally reached the northeastern frontier, they said, look, this is a great frontier. We have a vantage point to China. We have a vantage point to Southeast Asia. We must consider not just converting it, but converting it because this can become a base point for us. Therefore, when the British were leaving, this was also considered, they considered it to be a crown colony. They said, this can remain with us. We can leave the rest of India. This can remain with us because strategically it's so important. Now, at that point, to do this isolation, they had laid many policies. Now, the policies, as you would know, sir, the inner line permits, wherein people like us need a pass to go inside these states. I mean, why, as a citizen of India, would I need a pass to go into any other state? This itself, when you have a second level of paperwork to do, you might not go. This also gave a platform for a lot of secessionists, a lot of insurgent groups to come up because they did not have the same developmental initiatives that the rest of the country had. We had the Indian National Congress, when they were putting in these excluded, they were called excluded areas because they were excluded from development because they said, oh, these are tribal communities. We have to look at them as pagans and they deserve moral upliftment. This was the reason they created excluded, included areas and ILPs, So you are telling me that the British are telling me that we're going to have these policies where we're going to decide that a part of your population is separate to who you are. So a tribal population is not deserving of the same development initiatives as the other country because we want to preserve your unique culture. That was bunkum, this was no rational. This was bunkum rational. But they did it so that they could create this separate identity, which they were very successful. But why should we blame them? Because post 1947, none of these policies were ever changed. ILP in some states still exists. Now people feel it is a way of now they themselves feel that this is a way of preserving our culture and identity, and that becomes problematic. But let me tell you, sir, this is, when you talk about racism, of course, it's a very, very deep subject. But as much as we are in the wrong of considering them different bases, the racist divide, the British brought in the caste divide, but they also brought in the racist divide. They divided communities on the basis of race. There are also names there for us. We are also considered outsiders.
Right. Yeah.
There are words like Mayang that are also used for us. So any sort of integration has to be a two-way thing.
That's right. In fact, I agree with you, and there are quite a few words like that. And Tuhina, in fact, I would like to continue with that part only about the restrictions that were there. And there were the restrictions she's been talking about. Inner line permits are required, other restricted areas. So do you think this restrictions stunted the growth of that region?
Well, absolutely. Like Rami just mentioned, it was considered very weird if somebody decided or somebody chose to settle, forget the point of or thought of settling, even if one were to go on a long holiday in the Northeast beyond Assam, people would stare at you as if, you were mentioning some alien part of the world. And even today, there was a political party which recently made a comment about Naga people being dog eaters. So that kind of a very bizarre and absurd mentality has existed in certain sections of our people. And this had only widened the divide. So the divide was the divide were on two counts. One is infrastructural and two was cultural. But each of these was exacerbating the other. You just mentioned you were there from 1985.
Yes.
So you can recall that was probably 1 year after the Nellai massacre.
Nellai, yes.
That was
absolutely.
around the time when Prafulla Kumar Mohanta
Mahanta was a
just took over
student
the
leader.
CM.
Yeah.
So those were extremely turbulent days, and somewhere the successive governments post-independence were encouraging separatist groups. I think there was this lack of confidence in them on dealing robustly on security issues. So somewhere they kept pampering separatist groups, which was only aggravating the entire problem.
That's right. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, all these states had problems. All the states had, in fact, Assam had several kind of problems. It was not only Asu, it was also Absu, it was in North Kachar Hills and other so many places. So, in fact, it was very difficult to keep a count of all these terrorist organizations at one time. And Mizoram was another example.
In fact, to briefly tell you about the book, there are 23 chapters, and those cover a wide gamut. So while we are talking about the present day development initiatives, it was important, as you mentioned, to get into the history of conflicts and to decode how these conflicts were resolved. And in fact, Rami's chapter is the longest, the lengthiest chapter, which talks about the entire history of ethnic conflicts and how, they only got aggravated over a period of time till in the last 10 years, a firm resolve was there to sort out most of these.
Right, right. Rami, as an anthropologist, what constraint did you face in the Northeast for in-depth studies on tribal? It must have been too much. We'd like to know a few.
Sir, I'm so glad you brought up this question because I say this at the beginning of all my talks, that one of the biggest problems is that we keep talking about decolonizing our minds, but we use colonial subjects to study, our own society. So anthropology was a colonial arm. It didn't exist before the colonialists started the advent into other societies. So all the ICS officers that used to be deployed to countries like ours used to study anthropology. So the sense of otherness that Tuhin spoke about so rightly during his talk is embedded in the subjects that we are still studying. So why are we studying, when we study societies, we are studying it through lenses. What are those lenses? Anthropology, sociology, who created them? What are the frameworks? These are all Western frameworks. So we are still looking at our own societies with the sense of otherness. Now, I'll tell you a great debate that ensued between Verrier Elvin, who was the tribal advisor of our Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. He was not only a Westerner, a white man, but also previously a missionary. And he advised Jawaharlal Nehru on tribal affairs. And therefore, this entire division of tribal versus non-tribals came in because it never existed. It was during the first censuses that the word tribal came in, that animism came in, that non-tribals came in, so these sort of bifurcations were made because they were using these subjects to study us. And we still continue doing that. Now, great sociologists like G.S. Ghurye, who took on Verrier Elvin, saying tribal communities must not be isolated because a sense of otherness will be formed and a sense of separate identity and nationalism will be formed. However, G.S. Ghurye, who was the head of Bombay School of Sociology, is long forgotten. We still remember Ramchandra Guha writes about Verrier Elvin. But, we don't any longer study our own insider's view. My biggest problem was that. Because how do I explain it? How do I write it? So I had to form and formulate my own frameworks. And I had to start with GS. So I'll give you an example. Verrier Elvin said, tribal communities must be isolated, must be preserved. Like they don't have the capability of preserving their own uniqueness. We need government policies to preserve it. G.S. Ghurye said, they don't need to preserve it. We don't need government involvement on this. On the contrary, they need to be privy to the same development that the rest of the country is giving, and they can decide about their own preservation of culture, so on and so forth. I said they don't need to do any of that. What we need to do is just reintroduce them. to our ancient civilization, which is peppered, our ancient literature, the stories. See, one of our educational methods that we've forgotten is storytelling in folklore. This was a legitimate way of passing on history in our culture. Kathavachaks were predominantly people who carried history, culture, literature. We've completely, because we've again adopted Western forms of education, so we've given that up. We had, if we look into all of this, you'll see a direct connectivity. Nobody is saying that one needs to, sort of override anybody's culture. But if there is a civilizational continuity, you have to accept it. And you have to now start looking at it from that lens for national integration.
Good, good. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. In fact, I would also like to take a bit of blame on behalf of media. Even media had been, neglecting the Northeast. I was one of the first reporters of a national level newspaper, the Indian Express, to be there, to be posted in the Northeast. It was not a paratrooper journalism. I was posted there very much. And before me, a couple of others, including Shekhar Gupta. He was my predecessor there. And then when I was there were only 3 reporters from major newspapers, and that was Indian Express, Times of India, and Telegraph, if you call it a national paper, or Hindu was there, definitely. So only these papers were there, and very little flow was coming out of that region. And whenever there was a news, it was, like Nelly massacre, or insurgents killed so many, or army convoy looted, and all that kind of stuff. So media has also to take blame for it. And now that there are more newspapers have come in, their local papers have come in, the TV channels have come in. So those are there, but still it is restricted. I mean, still more focus requires to be taken on the Northeast. So Tuhin, I would like to ask you just, broadly, what is the Northeast policy, Northeast policy of the government?
See, there are two, like I mentioned, two broad pillars, infrastructure and culture. And I think in both of the spheres, extensive integration is what was the first step, which is what has broadly been achieved. So a capex of 4 lakh crores in the last 10 years has led to 40% more highways in the national highways in the Northeast. It has led to the total number of airports going from 8 to 17. It has led to railway lines reaching right up to Arunachal, Manipur, and initially 10 years ago, the rail lines existed to Dimapur. It has gone beyond Dimapur in Nagaland. Now, if you're in Delhi in the first week of December, you will find lots of people in the Delhi airport scrambling the way to make it to the Hornbill Festival in Nagaland. So a festival which has been celebrated for many decades now was barely known to people across the country. But tourism footfall in the last 10 years has been of a humongous scale. In fact, our Act East, that is the difference between the previous government, because in 1991, it was Narasimha Rao who thought about Think East. There is a lot of difference between Think East and Act East. So we brought it to the level of Act East. In fact, Ashish Chandorkar, one of the policy analysts, has written a chapter on how medical facilities have improved in the Northeast. So during COVID, imagine in the hilly terrains of Nagaland, of Mizoram, and in Arunachal Pradesh, the kind of efforts that were made through drone technology to ensure that everybody living in desolate corners of these places in the hills was vaccinated and in record time. So there was no lapse between the vaccination dates that were existing in other parts of the country and in these hilly terrains. Tap water connections, even in hilly terrains today, most of these states are recording, or as of current date, have reported an 80% plus success rate in terms of the houses covered with the Nal Se Jal Karyakram. So I think it has made a huge difference. Today, when we talk about our $5 trillion economy target, or an exponentially higher target in the coming decades, you need to realize that our cities are completely saturated. So this development will have to come from areas hitherto ignored. And that is where the Northeast becomes very important. The total contribution of Northeast to our GDP was 2.6% 10 years ago. Now it has gone up to 3%. But in the years to come, I can tell you that will grow up exponentially to 4.5 or 5% because the amount of investment, amount of human capital that has been created over there in the last few years has been enormous.
Thank you. Thank you. And in fact, I've been asked to wind up, but there'll be one question each at least. And to you, Rami, first. What steps should be taken for better integration between the regions?
Before I come to your answer, let me just also add to what Tuhin said. Tuhin, though, has put it together really well with the importance of the Northeast. But let me also say, with our Act East policy, we are looking towards connecting Southeast Asia. This is, as India envisions itself to be the country that is going to balance the power between the East and the West, it is hugely important for us to bank on our cultural, historical, soft power in Southeast Asia and reach out to all of these countries. Of course, Myanmar is in a bit of a situation right now, but we have the sea route as well, and Myanmar will eventually stabilize, hopefully, and those roads will be opened, and therefore we have the Kaladan multimodal project, we have the trilateral highway, so on and so forth. Northeast is the gateway for India's ambitions in Southeast Asia. And I think that's what we have to look towards and realize how important the Northeast is towards us, because the Northwestern frontier is no longer applicable any longer as a gateway, at least for the time being. But to answer your question, sir, what can be done? I think we've done a lot, and I'm not a political person, so, but I can still say this. I've been traveling for the last over a decade and a half, and I have gone to, because I concentrated on conflict and insurgency, I've been to every hotbed of insurgency. I've interviewed most of the insurgent groups. It used to take me 17, 20 hours, even from Delhi to Guwahati. Those were the flights, as you know, sir, that were available. There wasn't a direct flight to any of these places. From, I think, 9 airports, now you have 16 airports. Your highways are functional, railways are coming in. I have seen this with my own eyes. When I used to go in early 2000s, there were no hotels to stay. There were no there were no great places to eat. Half the time, to curfew laga rehta tha. Today when I go there, there are children who are coming back, not feeling the need to settle in Delhi and Bombay. They are going back to set up small businesses and taking pride in their own culture. Suddenly cuisines have become, the Naga cuisine, the Manipuri cuisine. These have all become so popular. We've come a long way. There still is a long way to go. And I think that will be based on further infrastructural integration. As we keep doing that, the travel time and the cost of travel will become less. I think there's been a 74% reduction in insurgency-related incidents. That can go down further. As long as there is peace, I think the Northeast is hugely capable, like any other part of India, to find its own way and a position amongst, the rest of the communities in the country. But what I would like to say is, as much as we need to have an open mind and they need to have an open mind in connecting with each other, overcoming cultural differences, overcoming historical differences, this has to be a concerted effort. It cannot just be in word. When I meet a person from the Northeast, I take special care in reaching out to that person, and that person should be doing vice versa to somebody else. And I think this is a people-to-people connection that we need to strengthen.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. In fact, it's a fascinating area. Those of you who have not been to the Northeast so far must go. I mean, it's just a fantastic place. There are all kinds of places which are so lovely. Bombdila, Tawang, or Nagaland in Aizawl, and so many other places. I mean, it's a heaven. It's like Shillong, better than perhaps part of Switzerland. We haven't heard of, and the traditions and all those things there. But the last question now, and the last question cannot be anything else but Manipur. So we need to ask you, what has happened in Manipur? It's been 8 months. So many people have died. So many things have happened there. The violence is not coming down. And the government continues to be there. I mean, there's no change in the chief ministership. There's nobody else. So maybe, if you want to add all something, we'll do that. Yeah.
quickly take a minute and then let Rami answer because she has extensively been speaking.
All
about
right.
it.
So, but we have to
Last
wind up
year.
in 5 minutes. So,
Yeah, yeah. It'll take exactly that much. See, what has happened, the violence in Manipur is extremely unfortunate. But you need to realize that between March 2017 and April 2023, that period of 6 years and 1 month also saw the longest stretch of peace and prosperity. But yes, some dark shadows which we believed had been done away with came back to haunt us. Now, there are two things which are very important, which somewhere get ignored. One is this trilateral highway right up to Thailand, which obviously had to have some geopolitical repercussions. There are larger forces at play over here. Two was the way the present government of Manipur had, acted against illegal poppy trade, which was happening at the behest of forces in Myanmar and other external forces. But of course, that cannot take away from the fact that the last few months have seen some worst violence. But again, like, there has been a history to it, and I think I would leave it to Rami to just explain it in slightly more detail.
Sir, I was, Manipur has been a place very close to my heart. And right at the peak of conflict, not only did I visit the militia groups who were involved in the hill areas, but also I was in the valley. So I consider myself privileged to have had that bird's eye view of what is happening there. One of the things we must understand is we shouldn't look at conflicts piecemeal. These are not simple conflicts. They are multi-layered conflicts. They are rooted in historical legacied issues. In 1992, there was the Kuki Naga conflict as well, which took 7 years to subside. So we have to not look at everything. We become very political. Sorry, Toheen, this is not for you, but generally, this is for the general public, that we look at everything politically. We don't go deeper into situations. We are not, we become like, we now want to read 700-piece word articles, sir, as you know, and have an opinion about things, not go deeper, not read books. We have a 10,000 book selling, being a bestseller book in this country. So if you said in a country of 1 billion people, if you send 10,000 books, it's a bestseller, which is a shame. So I think with the Manipur conflict, we have to be very responsible before we comment on it. We have to go into the history, understand the ethnic rivalries, the differences. Also remember that these communities have lived side by side for centuries. Peace will prevail. Yes, there are differences right now, which, like Tuhin said, very correctly so, because I concentrate on Myanmar as well. The drug nexus, drug, weapon, insurgency nexus is a real time problem. There was a time when Manipur had the highest HIV count in the country because of the amount of heroin that was being supplied there and being distributed. That has shifted to Mizoram right now, depending on where illegal migration and poppy cultivation is shifting. I saw the hills myself, So this is a larger nexus. This is a issue that involves not just Myanmar, but vested interests that are functioning in Myanmar. Myanmar is in a civil war-like situation at this point. There is a lot of, when we talk about illegal migrants coming in, mind you, we're not calling them refugees. A lot of them are not necessarily refugees. A lot of them are people who are here for vested interests, because the biggest market after the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan of drugs is now Myanmar. And we must understand that. I have a couple of articles on this, sir, if anybody would like to read it.
yeah, thank you. In fact, it's as you rightly said, it's a very complicated issue. Even when I was there 35 years ago, there was these simmering differences, but they have been living together and things have been happening. So I wish things get settled down, sorted out as early as possible. And thank you so much for this session.
So much.
Thank
I
you.
would request Shoolini to explore opening a university in the Northeast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for this illuminating session. I would like to invite Ashu Khosla ma'am and Dr. Julka to felicitate the speakers.
वो कहते हैं इंसान के दिल का रास्ता उससे पेट से होकर गुजरता है. And that's what our next session is about. And the session is Dastkhan e Dastakhan. And the speaker for this session are, who needs no introduction, Master Chef Shiprag Khanna and Master Chef Nidhi Sharma. The moderators for this session are Dr. Ekta Singh. Dr. Ekta Singh is an associate professor at Chitrakoot School of Liberal Arts, Shoolini University, holding a PhD in archaeology from HNB Garhwal University. Her academic journey has been marked by dedication to exploring the rich historical and cultural heritage of the Himalayan region. Dr. Singh completed her master's degree in ancient Indian history from Delhi University and pursued her undergraduate studies in history honors from Banchali University. Our next moderator for this session is Professor Neeraj Chaudhary. Professor Neeraj Chaudhary is the director of the School of Hospitality and Hotel Management at Shoolini University. He brings over 3 decades of profound expertise in food and beverage, enriched by extensive international experience, holding a gold medal in hotel management from IHM Kolkata. Neeraj sir is a distinguished alumnus of University of Lucknow.
Okay. Hi, Chef.
Hi. Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is first for me. And I'm slightly nervous, but anyway, nervousness aside, my name is Neeraj. And for all those who know me, thank you. I know you too. For all those who walked into Shoolini as our prestigious guests, I take care of the hotel management as well as the hospitality. And while I've been a chef for some time, but I'm happy, I'm learning here, and this is truly an honor to be here on the stage. A small shout out to my faculty, Sahil, thank you. Nitish, Chota Nitish, Bada Nitish, thank you so much. Ashu ma'am, thank you for giving me this opportunity. This is so cool. Yeah. Guys, come in front. This is really interesting. Come, please. All right, for our speakers, I have an amazing lady here, okay? Great business acumen, fantastic. Most probably she takes decisions in a jiffy, which range from thousands and lakhs of rupees that happen, She's the creme de la creme for one of the most important banks in our country, and of course in our city. She's a loved mother, okay, and a great wife. She's a champion of Himachali food, as they call her, the Dham girl. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to your name, please.
Nidhi Sharma.
Nidhi. Okay, great. Can we have clapping, please? Nidhi is around, and she's our girl. She's from Solon.
Thank you so much. And it feels so immense pleasure that I'm here amongst you. And thank you to everyone, one and all, who called me for this event. First of all, I would like to introduce me. As you know me, Dham Good Chef in MasterChef. I was there as a finalist. And along with me, ma'am will like to introduce you herself. I think then we shall start the session after once ma'am introduces her.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ekta. I have a personal interest in food. I'm an
Everyone
archaeologist and I work on paleo diet and food archaeology in the Himalayan region. And I'm here to introduce Ma'am Shipra Ma'am, Master Chef Shipra. I think she need no introduction. Bas naam hi kafi hai. She's a winner of season 2 Master Chef and has many feathers in her cap. She's a traveler, author, teacher, and whatnot. Recently, she has also been awarded in World Influencer Blogger Award at Cannes. So here you go, ma'am.
It's such a, I think it's on. Hello. It's been a pleasure to come to Shoolini University. I'm really, really happily surprised how beautifully it's turned out. The entire drive was amazing. And really, I'm a Himachali, and I don't actually divide Himachal into different regions. For me, Himachal is Himachal because I'm actually a world citizen. I travel so much when I just, just taking a moment coming back home is a pleasure for me. So I'm a Himachali.
I wish you would have stayed with us.
I wish to. Seeing your campus, I'm so, it's so endearing. I just missed out staying here.
Thank
Maybe
you.
next time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Please, please.
Yeah, we'll have to shift the mics, but that's okay. That's okay. Great. So, Nidhi, for you, how does it feel to, manage so much of money and such a career and a family and then creating food? I mean, this is crazy. Tell me. It's very important. I think all of us would like to know. How does that happen?
First of all, I think money ko hata dena chahiye. And apart from that, rest what you said was all right.
Money is driving the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no doubt I'm managing food, I'm managing my career as a banker also, and as a wife also, as a mother also. There are so many multiple roles, I think, in every woman's life that she has to fall upon. And I feel so lucky to have such a supportive family. I think without their support, it was not at all possible for me to do multiple tasking. Because besides a banker, being in MasterChef, and after that, I'm just trying to make a healthy balance between the two. And that is due to kind of my meditative character that I falls in, and my supportive family. Of course, God, and He's the only one who is inspiring for doing so much of things. I believe in karma also. So I think everything is very relatable, and that's what brings me here.
True. So sweet. And from where your journey has started?
My
In the culinary world.
Yeah, so my actually winning MasterChef gave me a platform to live, to actually, I think most of us start cooking as a passion, right? So we are all passionate cooks at heart, and that's what I believe. And I think, that's how my journey also started, with passion. And then winning MasterChef gave me a platform to turn it into my profession. And then I didn't want to settle down. I just wanted to try where all I can take my, where all I can take my passion and, just turn the way around. Because I think there's so many gaps in the world, and India still, people still need to know Indian cuisine. So I started with, as the ambassador of MasterChef Travel, which was a travel wing for MasterChef. I traveled a lot of countries, and I do a lot of HNI menus all across the globe. So there I started making menus which were obviously Indian or maybe Indian fusion, but I started plating and presenting it in a way where they had never seen Indian food like that. So it just took my idea of throughout my journey was taking Indian food to a level which it becomes gourmet cuisine, which was never looked at like that.
that, I would like to ask, that, what is your, like, which is that ingredient which was like most challenging for you, and how you have tackled that?
Actually, I think the most difficult one was banana.
Okay.
And like the entire banana tree, because I don't know how many of you know, and especially the culinary students, that every part of a banana tree can be used, from the fruit, to the flower, leaf, and the stem, which I didn't know, because being Himachali, I'm not very fond of bananas. And going to Bombay now, it's in the West, there's so many bananas. And the south of India, there's so much banana and recipes with banana. But in Himachal, we have so much other things to eat. So that was very challenging. But yeah, I got over that.
Yes, I have another question. Let's come to the beautiful city of Cannes, right? That's the south of France. Yeah. So away from India, you managed to rub shoulders with the who's who of the film industry. So the red carpet, the awards, and so on and so forth. And you were a chef, and you are a chef. So how did that materialize?
It's never in the history of Cannes it's happened that a chef, that too from India, has received or been recognized. So that was the first time, and it was immense pleasure. I was sitting with Elon Musk's mother, and we had a great time over dinner. And yes, I met like the biggest of world celebrities that you can imagine. And it was really humbling. The entire process was very humbling. And being a chef, and just with food, just with one passion that I had, to go to that level, it was really, really overwhelming. Really.
Fabulous. Could you also kind of let us know as to what were the dishes that were created from your end and your team?
So it was a I mean, at the awards, we didn't create anything.
All
But
right.
obviously, for the H&I menus that I do internationally, I have done it with the Mukesh Ambani entire delegates in Bangkok.
Okay.
With St. Regis. I've also done, with one of the Michelin star chefs in Spain. That's San Sebastian. And also at Bilbaina, which is like 180-year-old gentleman's club. And it was a fusion menu with my take on Indian food, which also made me win MasterChef. So my idea of food, and for all the culinary students, I would only like to say that there are no rules when it comes to food. If you are passionate about something, you being a chef, food has to speak what food is to you, right? And that's what food is to me. It is a dal can be created, or it can be deconstructed and presented in a very different way. And that's what my outlook to food was. And when I won MasterChef, that time also I won because of fusion. I did not make anything. I did not prepare. There were people who came prepared and everything, but I just know food the way I want to cook it. And I think that's what, and after that, there's so many restaurants in India that have come across with fusion cooking. But that was only after my season came out. But people just started making money out of it, and it just came up to be a different cuisine altogether. So it was really, it's amazing. I think it's everything in life is a perspective, especially when you look at an ingredient. You can just, I think it just comes from the universe. You can just start thinking, what are the flavors? How can I put it together? And how can I create something which has never been created before?
I think that answers my question of what are the essential skills that one could have to become a chef.
Actually, I think the most essential thing to become a chef is having passion.
Yes.
And you have to be resilient no matter what. You will see the passion in chefs. The greatest chefs, they are resilient. If they think that I can make it, they will not leave the station. They will not leave the kitchen till they make that dish right. So resilience is really, really important. And obviously hard work, and at the same time, patience. I think these are the virtues one should actually have.
And I'll quip in. And I think we really need to be open-minded.
Yes, absolutely.
No barriers.
Flexible.
No
Yeah,
barriers.
yeah, true.
Great for you. You are passionate about Himachali cuisine. How do we tackle tribal cuisine? So we have a few tribal areas with us.
What I feel that it is all a coincidence that we have also somewhere generated from the tribal only, because those areas were preserved and they were not developed as much as we have developed. but the cuisine and its roots are from the tribal areas only. In my MasterChef journey, I found some contestants who were from tribal areas themselves. So there was not a much difference between our ideologies regarding the food. It was just about some preserved ingredients, how they are using, what methods they are using for the food, what cooking techniques they are using. Maybe they lag behind somewhere, but whatever we are creating in our kitchens is the same as they cook there. But some foraged ingredients are there which are still sitting there in their zones only, and they cannot come up in our areas. So that is the only difference. And I don't think that, as Chef Shipra said, that food should just have a relationship, and it has nothing to do with it's all your imagination. Whether you are in a tribal, whether you are in a metro city, whatever it is your relationship, and how you take food forward is the only thing behind.
Yeah, so I actually, what I meant was that how do we manage to get the beautiful food that we have in our tribal areas to a common man away from that?
Okay, all right. So
Somebody in Solon, somebody in Shimla.
I think somebody someday has to take some initiative regarding the same, what I feel. That is the first thing to move step forward, because no one has started this thing. I think there's no restaurant in Himachal also who is serving these tribal cuisines. Somewhere, whenever you go to some interior villages of Spiti, Manali, and all, there you get that food. And I think we also know that food, but we are not representing that in our gourmet cuisines or in some fine dinings. So I think that was my prime motive to go in MasterChef also, that I wanted to promote Himachali cuisine, that it is very less heard and very less experimented also. So maybe in this journey, if God allows me and if my journey allows me, someday I think we can create some magic together.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
A unique technique that is being used in Himachal, which you love.
I think I'll talk of Himachali Dham. However, Himachali Dham is altogether a very different experience. I would not say that it is a fine dining we can convert it into. It is a totally an experience, very different experience for all of Himachalis, as well as from all other people who come to enjoy the Dham. So there are certain techniques, as you know, that some specific utensils are used to cook that food, and it is been cooked on a very slow cooking. Slow cooking process is nowadays somewhere silent in the food industry, what I feel. Because whenever there is a function at my home, what happens that the cooking starts 12 to 14 hours back, and the end product is served by tomorrow. So I asked, there is a specific word used, boti, for our Himachali food, what they make. So I know many of them. So they are like my friends, some brothers, some elders. So whenever I talk to them, they say that जो रस इस स्लो कुकिंग से हमें आ रहा है ना, वो आप किसी फाइन डाइनिंग में चले जाएंगे, उसमें आपको वो नहीं
They are the
आएगा.
tribals, I get the
Yeah.
migrators from.
Not
Different region,
exactly, I will say that tribal, but even in the lost recipes are there, which have been just made by grandmothers and grandnannies only, and they are not being served in any restaurants. That was the point, to bring everything forward. And the technique, slow cooking method, I must say that is used in the Himachali food the most.
Okay, with that, Shipra, can you share a memorable moment from your childhood for cooking?
For cooking,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. So I come from a very foodie family. And my brother, I have one elder brother and one younger brother, and my elder brother is really fond of cooking. So we used to just get in the kitchen, and we both used to start cooking. And that time there were no books, internet wasn't that happening right now how it is. And we would just get into the kitchen. I was like, okay, I'm going to make dinner rolls, because that was something that I really liked. But we had no books for baking or bread or anything. It was just instinctive, and it came out so well. And now when I tell my brother, he's like, I don't remember. But I was like, no, we just did it without the book and it came out well. So something we did was right.
Your journey started way beyond. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I started cooking. That is a funny experience, because my parents never used to allow me. They said, oh, you're a child. I was just 9 years old. And they're like, in the kitchen, some mishaps can happen. So you should just stay away from the kitchen. So nobody was at home. I just went in the kitchen. Whatever was in the refrigerator, I cooked. Obviously, it wasn't like a great dish. But that's how I felt that, no, I should just, try my try some knack of cooking.
Talking
somewhere.
about mishaps, I really want to know, do you have some experience of some cooking mishap?
Yes, I have. I was at an event in Surat. Okay, and we were on stage, and there were like maybe hundreds of people. So I just called some volunteers on the stage, and I was like, "Let's cook." And I was making cupcakes that time. So somebody passed me. I thought it's sugar. It was salt. My bad, I didn't taste it. And I just added it to the cupcakes. The cupcakes came out beautifully. And I just realized that, and whilst it was happening, I said, listen, was that salt or was that sugar? So, but people were really sweet. They're like, no, ma'am, you've come and you cooked for us. We are going to eat it. And they started taking bites of the cake, but obviously it wasn't edible. It was too salty. That was the
Yeah,
biggest
all that
disaster.
glitters is not gold. Okay, sustainability. We at Shoolini, I think, understand that very clearly. It's kind of being ingrained into us day in and day out. Sustainability, I think, is the call of yesterday. I don't think it is a call of today or tomorrow. It is a call that should have been taken yesterday. But nevertheless, Shipra, tell me, how does it, kind of integrate with your business and the way you operate?
Yeah, I totally stand for sustainability. In fact, I've done a lot of events, promoting sustainability, especially in the hospitality industry, because I think that's where it begins. When you say sustainability, because when when you talk about hotels and all, the kind of wastage they have, if they can stop that, whether it's in washing, whether it's wastage of food. So all these things can be protected, obviously, like coming to a common man, even in the kitchen, if you can stop wastage of food and running excess water or using excess water to wash clothes, these are small steps that you can take to attain sustainability, so that the future generation, the word is really big, sustainability, but it means that your future generations are left with the same greenery, the same environment, the same nutrition in food, even long after we have left. So we got to leave something for the future generations. We shouldn't be greedy to consume everything whilst we are here and destroy the environment. And I think a lot of people, a lot of hotels now have taken up to sustainability. Plastic bottles or plastic is really banned. Big hotel chains like Hilton and Taj and all, they're using their own plants to, get water in a glass bottle, which is done in their premises itself. So plastic is a big thing. I think it won't vanish immediately, but the use of plastic has really drastically been reduced.
Yeah, one thing
And the
when
carbon footprint that we talk about, it's really people are taking, especially like at least bigger giants have started taking steps. I always feel it's always like small drops in the, small drops that make an ocean. So, if we all as an individual, we start taking one step at a time, even in a small little house abode, where we can practice sustainability, I think it would be really, really good for the environment.
I guess one thing also I would like to add, that we are coming up with a very beautiful concept of zero wastage nowadays. And it's been getting followed at our kitchens, I think, long back. Because have seen my grandmothers who used to take आलू का छिलका and then उससे manure बन रहा है, आपके खाद बन रही है, उसी से पौधे लग रहे हैं, आप कुछ भी external कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो I think ये concepts already they were lying behind, but it's the high time to take them forward.
Nidhi, tell me, how does cookery and cuisine and culinary interest, how does that integrate with your family?
I think my culinary journey started way back when I used to be with my dadi and nani, and there where I thought of food and its relationship with me. I don't know that at what level I'm going to reach further in this culinary world, but wherever I am, I think the food is that one thing which has a direct relationship with your energy as well as with your soul. What I find. I have a 3-year-old daughter. So whenever I feed her, I make sure that there should be no angriness in that, and there should be food should be very pure. In fact, I put a lot of vibrations in our food so that it can revolve in her mind. Because for me, food, apart from just food, is an emotion, is an integral part of our body, mind, and soul together. So I think the relationship of food with culinary journey is like you can go beyond. You can bring fine dinings. You can bring some sort of another advanced techniques, but the roots of the food are there. It's just a source of energy, and how we elevate that is the only thing. And as far as my family is concerned, they are very much fond of food what I make for them, because they feel that it's made out of love, and it's all that it's the only way you can show love towards someone. अभी जैसा हमने इस सेशन का शुरुआत किया था कि किसी के भी दिल का जो रास्ता है वो पेट से होकर जाता है. So I truly believe in that, and I think that's how I go in the culinary world. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, what advice would you like to give to people who cook at home, and what skills they can acquire? Like,
For
to
home chefs, you
yes,
mean?
for the home chefs, basically. Yeah.
For me, I think keep on experimenting is the only thing what you can go with. You have to try certain flavor pairings that are not renowned of, that are not fond of, but you have to try and fail and then restart. I think that is the only technique in food, and as a home chef particularly, because even I have not a degree, I'm not a degree holder, but still I feel like that I have certain things in my control. When it comes to certain thinking like a chef, then my mind goes like that, because I have experimented with various things and I have failed so many times, so many times. Then I have come up with some beautiful thing that we never imagined of. Like there are few dishes which I never imagined of, that I can make this, or these ingredients can just relate with these ingredients. But
Yes.
finally, the outcome was so beautiful and it was so good that everybody praised off also. And even I felt confident that if I'm experimenting with this simple ingredient and this can come out so good, so world has so many beautiful ingredients. So what magic we can create in the food world.
Yeah.
So
So-
that is I think what passion calls of.
Yes.
Huh.
So,
Try until you succeed, basically.
That is the only
So,
agenda.
Shipra, so I believe that food carries energy. And in our Shastras also, there's written like like there is this concept of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvic food. What is your idea about that? What are
Yeah,
your
I mean, that's, I totally believe in it. And in fact, vegetarianism is, veganism has taken over, but India had always been practicing it, right? Like we have Sattvic food, even in the temples, or like even in some of the religions, whether it's Jainism or even Gujaratis, they eat a lot of vegetarian food. And it is really good, very mindful eating. And it's very good because end of the day, I'm also the health ambassador to India and also the cultural ambassador. So whenever I'm speaking on public platforms, I really make sure that, because millets coming from India and Africa mostly, but I am making a lot of recipes with millets. And there are, when you study Ayurveda, which is the ancient medicine, system of medicine. So basically, they understand our body anatomy and they understand that each individual is different. Each individual needs are different. So each individual's diet is different. And that diet, I personally feel that no dietitian can give you. You can decide it for yourself by eating and trying different foods, what suits you. And say, for example, even in there's Panchkarma and there's so much, in Ayurveda also. But then, they say that you start with oil pulling in the morning for bad breath. And these things are actually tried and tested. And I think the more digital the world is becoming, like, at a click of a button, you get to access world information. I think the more primitive in at least eating habits I've started becoming. Like I have certain days where I want to have vegetarian, but there's certain routine in my system which is just around Ayurveda, just understanding my body. Just, it's also, see, good food. Good food, not, it doesn't really mean, for me, good food is something that, when you eat, you don't feel lethargic. You're active, you want to do more, you're out and about. That is good food. Not like really indulgent, you overeat and then you want to sleep. That's not good food. That's indulgent food. So once you understand food, and you really have to give a lot of time and study to it, to finally understand that why our ancestors were doing what they were doing. Today, if you see that, it was a really nice article I read, which I want to share. They said, when we see all these machines and all, and we think like we are superpowers with brain and digital access and everything, but they still go to the manual to see how the machine works, which has been made years back by some of our ancestors, and who we think we are smarter than them, but we still, we still refer to the manual. So they were doing something right. They also, one study says that our ancestors were way stronger than an individual man today is. So definitely diet played a very, very important role. And we weren't hunters by nature.
Yeah.
Initially, we weren't hunters by nature. It was eventually it came about because survival as well, I would say. But it was not like the string that got us here. That was not the thing. And especially when we see like, all the, especially in India being like 5,000 year habitation, like, our scriptures and everything is way old. Maybe Latin America would stand right next. But other than that, what we say in terms of our food, in terms of how we should sleep, how we should eat, what is this fresh air for? Why are we worshipping nature? There's always a reason for it. We dismiss it because we are always inclined to the West. But trust me, the West is coming to us. Now you go to, like when you go to America, they have all the cafes, they have golden latte. All right. There's nothing but our turmeric haldi ka doodh, which our grandmother used to give us. So, they are going back to, making fresh, eating fresh, veganism, which has just been endowed in us like for ages, which we are dismissing because, oh yeah, this is too primitive. This is not our thing. We will go something, we'll have packaged food. But if you see like West, we never had cancer in India. And now it's coming from the West because it's all packaged food, it's all chemicals, it's, a lot of, in fact, like a lot of packaged ingredients that we are buying today. They really, I see it, my heart cries because I know the ingredients in there are something that could actually give a cardiac arrest to a person who's eating that every day. It's just got oil and some chemicals, which are just not good for us. Whereas if we just have like, what we used to do before, just pluck like, farm to table kind of concept. You pluck fresh, you have a kitchen garden, you pluck the fresh vegetables or plants from there.
And you have
just
so many memories related to
Cover
those.
kari usko roast karke, and it is like very
very simple
very
and very nice. I think at least, I'm a big promoter of vegetarian food, Ayurveda, and all that India has to offer. And I really think India has come of age now with our Prime Minister also supporting a lot of causes in terms of food. Who would think that millets would be promoted by the government, right? Who would think that a cultural ambassador or a health ambassador would be a chef? So government is also taking these things because I think it is we have to be aware. We cannot be just living in oblivion. I think, yeah, that's what it is. I can go on, but I know we're short of time.
That short of time. I also have something, one more little question. And comfort food, that's in, that's hip, that's happening. So what's your take on comfort food?
For me, comfort food is dal, chawal,
Yes.
and ek chamach desi ghee.
Yes.
And I said it, I was there at an awards, NDTV awards, like sometime last week or something. And I said the same thing, that this is and they were like, at least half the people who agreed with me that this is our comfort food also.
Same.
So no matter
short,
how
we call
much
it
in
khichdi.
how much in the world you travel, I think Indian food. And I also had a show with all these Bollywood actors, right? So there, one of them, she said, I said, which is your favorite cuisine? She's like, Indian food. Because if you see our thali, Indian thali, it has got everything which the Westerners say, oh, it's a diet. You have to follow like protein, carbs, and, all of that. So a little bit of fat. But our thali has everything. We have salad, we have curd, we have lentils, which is great source of protein. We have carbs, we have roti, chawal. We have everything. It's a balanced meal. That's the best meal you can eat. It's an everyday comfort food.
Okay, great. So literally one last question, and a very lighter one. Which is one of your favorite dishes which is not from the Indian cuisine?
I have a lot of them. I'm a big foodie. I love food, love food. And I like Japanese. Peruvian is my favoriteest. And I like ceviche a lot. It's basically fresh seafood, which is cooked in, say anything acidic, mostly lime. And then it's flavored with different, they put a lot of condiments in it, but it's really basic flavor, which is really, really nice. And I also like milfouille, which is a French dessert. And now it's losing its charm, and like it's really difficult to find it in Paris or in any part of France also. But there's some authentic patisseries you might find it, and it's really it's creme chantilly with it's a 1,000 layer layering of pastry and strawberries on top.
And very difficult to eat.
Very messy to eat, but
Very
it's so
messy to
delicious.
eat.
It's worth it. Or even the Paris breast. Like I love a lot of French desserts. They're so delicious. I'm a big foodie. I can go on with food. I like Thai cuisine
What
also.
about you?
See, as per my exposure, I think whatever food I have tried outside India is at my home only, while I was experimenting with the food. And I found empanadas very delicious. It's a kind of bread and it has been stuffed. Since I'm a vegetarian, so I tried making that with the mushroom and ricotta cheese, and it came out really delicious. So that was my take on American empanadas, and they
Argentinian.
yeah, Argentinian,
Excellent.
yes. So I think that was the one food that I like the most at my place. And other thing, Italian, these pastas and pizzas, they go on. We keep on experimenting with that also. And as far as my cooking is concerned, I probably shift towards like whole wheat things and no to maida. Sometimes I try experimenting that. It's very difficult task, and it's very kind of difficult to replace maida with our whole wheat flour. So right now also I'm just researching on that part, and my ongoing recipes and upcoming recipes are more of whole wheat flour and not of maida.
In fact, I started, so during Christmas, I make like a lot of Christmas cakes and all. One of my uncles, he had a brain surgery, and he really likes, so I like to cook for him. Like in particular, I would just cook. He likes my cakes and all. So during Christmas, there has to be like a couple of cakes that go to him. So since, so I take care of his diet as well, because he cannot eat everything. And I'm also a promoter of good health, like healthy food. So this time I made it with millets, and I used honey. I replaced like refined sugar completely. I replaced all the refined flours, and it came out really, really well. It was delicious. So I think,
Just experiment.
like she said, just keep experimenting till you succeed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wastage, so we're not like, talking about sustainability.
Correct. Correct. So shall we kind of, yeah. Let's go to the winners of the competition.
Culinary
Yeah.
competition.
Culinary
yes.
competition, that is Yellow is Happiness. And this was a competition that was thrown open to the students of the university, and all they had to do was just kind of focus on the yellow color and make a video, whatever they cook at home, and then present it to us. And I think chef has taken a call, and shall we start? Great. So we'll of course require Chef Shivras.
Yes.
And then that will be the last part. Shivra, if you can have your sign. There you go. Great. Okay. Can we have Gauri on stage?
Gauri Mishra.
Gauri? Gauri. What did you make?
So I made a dish named Kathal Masala.
Kathal masala, I guess, for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that came out pretty well. Sorry, come on.
Really, congratulations and well done. Nice. You use some nice vegetables. Come. Yeah.
Harshvardhan, where are you? Come.
Himachali dhokla?
No, regular Gujarati dhokla, but he did a good job.
Hello guys, my name is Harshvardhan Singh Bes. Today I make dhokla. For making dhokla, the ingredients we need are besan 1 cup, curd half cup, salt swad anusar, and oil 2 spoons.
Right, Shivam. Shivam did the vegetable poha. Shivam, come. So again, yellow is happiness.
Congratulations, Shivam. Keep cooking. Keep making us proud.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I would just say a few words for my book. This is my 9th cookbook in a row. I have won World Gourmet Awards for my second cookbook, which was Sinfully Yours. Also, and this is Sinfully Yours is the second part of it. It's just desserts. It's got a lot of healthy desserts, a lot of desserts that are really very quick and easy to make, a different take, and especially for people or kids who don't want to cook or don't know how to cook, women who don't want to or don't know how to cook in kitchen or not very good in desserts or baking. And it's really amazing because I've done the photography myself. I had a full team working for me as well, but I've still worked really, really hard. And this is the first time the books aren't available, but they will be soon available online. And please do buy it, do go through it. It's a pleasure opening up this book right here at Shoolini University. This is my first look. And thank you so
Hit our
much.
library first.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such a pleasure.
Professor Khosla. Sir, to felicitate Shipra ma'am and Nidhi ma'am. I think they are. Oh, I just
Sir, I wish I could give you mine, but it's still not enough. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So now we formally invite Rami ma'am on the stage because Chancellor wants to felicitate with his book, which is a very, very interesting book to read. So put your hands together for Chancellor and Rami Desai on the stage, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Chancellor Sir, Julka sir and ma'am. And thank you so much, Dr. Ekta and Neeraj sir for moderating this session. Now over to Gautam for the next session.
They say legends never die. And that's what our next session is about, the life and death of Sidhu Moosewala, a legend that never died. And who would be the best to talk about it when you have Mr. Jupinderjeet Singh, who's the writer of the book, Who Killed Moosewala? The moderator for this session would be Ma'am Nishtha Anand, a pioneering personality in higher education. Ms. Nishtha Shukla Anand, Executive Trustee of the Foundation of Life Sciences and Business Management and Director of Shoolini University, is among the top 10 women leaders in education. The honor was conferred about Ms. Anand by the Higher Education Review, a monthly magazine published from Bengaluru. Can we have you on the stage, please? Can we have Mr. Jupinderjeet Singh on the stage, please?
Whatever works for you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Shoolini Jupinderjeet.
Hi, thanks for having me. Hello, sir. How are you?
So it's a beautiful morning on day 2 of our Lit Fest. It's been such a fantastic yesterday and the morning. And now we are here to talk about something closer to home, which is Moosewala. But before that, I'd like to just introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Jupinderjeet Singh. He's a very acclaimed journalist and author residing in Chandigarh. He has authored 3 books, and most of them are based on real life stories. He has over 20 years of varied experience reporting in Jammu and Kashmir, covering the state of Rajasthan, and as a state correspondent. He was also awarded the Prem Bhatia Young Journalist Award for his stories and research on the changing demography of Punjab, vis-a-vis the inflow of immigrants from eastern and central states to Punjab and outflow of Punjabis to western countries way back in 2005. And he is also a fellow with the Center for Science and Environment on Forest Rights for the Tribals in Jammu and Kashmir. Welcome, heartiest welcome on the panel.
Thank you.
And I mean, who better to speak about, this very tragic incident that has happened very close to Himachal. Mr. Sidhu Moosewala, who was a recognized musician, and I believe that you have covered extensively, not only as an author, but also as a journalist. So do you want to first start with, how you stumbled upon the book and authoring it?
Okay, so I'm a crime reporter with the Tribune, and I'm reporting on crime for. Am I audible? Okay. So I'm reporting for more than 2 decades now. I worked in Jammu and Kashmir, reported on militancy. My village is on Pakistan border, so I know the nuances of that place. And during course of my crime reporting, I came across a number of stories which really shook you. There was one Jassi honor killing case, a girl from Canada who was killed in Jagraon, Ludhiana, 8th of June 2000. So I've done 2 books on that. And very soon a movie, Dear Jassi, based on the first book, will be released in India. And then I discovered Bhagat Singh's pistol also, with which Bhagat Singh had killed J.P. Saunders, a British officer. So that pistol was missing for 80 years plus. And so all this happened during just because I had an opportunity of crime reporting. And Sidhu Moosewala was also that. I reported his murder. In fact, Tribune was one of the first English newspaper to break the story. And I think we were online within 7 minutes of the shooting. And at that time, his death was not announced. So before that, I had never met Sidhu Moosewala. So my book starts with his murder, and it is not his life story, it is his murder story. Why I wrote it is that, it disturbed me a lot because he was one Punjabi who was making a lot of name, though there were controversies also. But at the same time, he was doing something. He was trying to bring out a change. I think he had some voice of moderate Sikh also in him. So, that's all. It made me curious a lot. And that's how I started writing the book. Then, Moosewala's name sells, and I got a publisher, Westlands. They were very kind enough to accept it, and but very, very unkind to give me a 3 months deadline. So then I had to finish the book in 3 months. Yeah.
3 months. Wow. I'm sure this is going to give hope to a lot of want-to-be authors. So, do you identify this book as investigative journalism or as a true crime story?
It's both. It is true crime because it happened, and investigation because there are so many aspects to it. There are so many layers to Sidhu Moosewala, and there are so many layers to the criminals who killed him. So it was a massive investigation. I mean, 3 months was, I had to listen to all his interviews. I had to read all his interviews. Then I had to speak to number of his friends because I had not met this man. And my perception of him was what perception of most of people was, that he's, promoting gun culture. And yes, his songs did. So I actually did some critical news stories about him earlier before his death, but his murder changed everything because it showed the always this underground violence going on in Punjab.
We will go deeper into that because I have a lot of questions around that.
You're welcome.
But I'll just quickly lay the context for everyone. Sidhu Moosewala was a Punjabi rap singer, writer, and composer who saw meteoric rise from 2016 onwards till 2020. And he was also very active in politics. He stood for elections at one point, but he lost it to an AAP candidate. He was also a vehement supporter of the farmers' protest. All this by the time, when we lost him, he was 27 years of age. So fairly young. 29. Sorry, I got that wrong. And of course, he was ruthlessly shot dead. Do you want to tell us a sense of how ruthless this was?
Yeah, there were 6 shooters. They were armed with the AK-47, 30 mm, 9 mm, and there were 19 bullet marks on his body. So, they sprayed bullets on him from all sides.
Right. You spoke about, speaking to a lot of characters. Sorry, I'm going to just use the terms book and the investigation interchangeably. So please pardon that. But there are a lot of characters in this book: the gangs, the police, the family, the governments, and also the songs. So how close do you think his songs were to his real life? You also spoke about the violence in the songs, and the youth culture that we see in the pinned. So what's your take on that?
See, to understand any artist, you have to understand his work. And so for Moosewala, it was his songs. They were a window to his soul. Moosewala was an unfiltered person.
Okay.
So whatever will, he will experience, whether right or wrong, whatever he will infer, perceive, he will outpour that in his songs. So you will see that in the 4 years of, 5 years of his main music career, or whatever was happening inside was coming in the songs. He was expressing those. Yeah. At the same time, you see what the kind of challenges he was going through, that also he will talk in the songs. And his music is very important to understand him. If I had met him when he was alive and I had interviewed him, maybe I would have got some kind of observations about him. But his songs tell you everything. His first song was actually song based on Shahid Uddham Singh, and he was at that time learning music in Ludhiana. And that he wanted to write a song, but he didn't have the confidence, so he hired someone.
Okay.
And he hired someone, and that man promised a song, but he never delivered it. And at one time, that man asked for money for the song, which he didn't have. So then he said that we will write our own song, so that song tells about that struggle. And so they said what song we will write, and he said I want to write about Shahid Uddham Singh. And so they said there's so many songs about Shahid Uddham Singh. So then during discussion it came up that Shahid Uddham Singh, he waited so many years to take his revenge. And then Musewala asked his music teacher and others, so how did he get an arms license in England where he killed Dyer. So he said, no, people who, जो कफन पे बांध के जाते हैं, उनको लाइसेंस की जरूरत नहीं होती. So that became his first song.
Right.
Hathyar, and so it came out from that. Then there are songs on his father, on his mother. He tells, he wanted to tell, I mean, this is my idea. He wanted to tell people that he is seen as a violent, blood hungry, guy, gangster kind of guy in his songs. But in real life, he is very calm. He is very shy. I mean, most of the media persons remember that they had to make him talk. Otherwise, he would just sit with his head, lower down and all that. He would rarely talk. So he will say that in his song, he says that, dear mom, sometimes I feel I'm like you because you are so calm and you are so serene. So he compares. So that is, all his, whatever is going on inside him is through his songs. So then his songs also tell you about the history of violence in Punjab. He took up a lot of controversial characters like Dimpy Chandpan, the gangster, the guy who had killed an engineer who was digging up the SYL canal. He talked about Bhindranwale. He talked about a lot of controversial characters. So then, understanding his songs, you can talk, you come across that uh, this one controversial history of Punjab also.
Yes, yes. There is a lot that he talks about in terms of Punjab and everything that is happening, which makes me to my next question, which is about, the hyper masculinity that comes across in his songs. And I have two teenage boys and I'm bringing them up in Chandigarh. So I really know what that means.
Chandigarh guys are not hyper masculine. I'm sorry to say that. We are Chandigarh guys are more Maggie noodle guys. You have to come to Tarantaran to my village, where you will find, oh, this guy was with Khalistan Liberation Force. This guy was a, Veer Chakra winner. So many soldiers, Colonel Chima is here. And so that side, Maja area, then Malwa is so beyond it. Malwa is total. I mean, these were the guys who put up all these barriers on Shambhu and farmers' protests. That all is Mansa area where this thing. So you are blessed if you are in Chandigarh.
So how ingrained is this in the youth, in the interiors, let's say?
Well, you see, I can give you an example of Virat Kohli. He has a Punjabi blood in him. Like, Kohlis are Punjabis. He is the only one who's sledging on the field. Right? So you see the
use it to
hyper
your
masculinity. And when he is absent from the test series, then Shubman Gill is doing that. I mean, so no other person went and sledged Anderson, such a senior guy, 40 plus. And he's telling him, you are tired, man, you should go and retire. So, so that is the hyper masculinity in Punjabis. We are big pangebaj, and so that is true. That is true. But I mean, you see the vagaries of nature here. You see there are floods. Now that there are dams and everything, but Punjab has suffered floods. So there was famine also. And particularly in that Malwa belt, you see the effects of the desert, the Rajasthan desert also. It's a semi-arid area also. And then there was so many invasions. So all this made, them, I think this was kind of a defense mechanism, hyper masculinity to survive. in all that. You will find hypermasculinity not just in men, but in women also. You see a Amritsari woman and you see woman in Firozpur and Faridkot. I mean, they can take on 4 or 5 guys easily.
They can.
Yeah. So it is there in the blood.
Yeah, I think we should bring more of them to the forefront in India. Indian
Yeah.
sports, at least.
Yeah, there are Harmanpreet. I mean, she hit a
Yes.
she longer six than Sehwag in Sydney ground, and she's from the basic heartland Moga.
Mocha.
All agitation start from Moga in
Yes.
Punjab. No? So there is Harmanpreet. So you will find Punjabis there. And even now, I mean, it's not just negative, but the Galwan Valley clash, 4 guys, 4 youth from Mansa, they achieved martyrdom. And it is said that each of those youth have killed or injured 10 to 11 Chinese soldiers. Just 19-year-old youth. So, I mean, hypermasculinity is very, very important. And it is very positive also.
That's a very interesting take. Thank you for that. Let's also talk about what the murderers of Musewala had to say. They also claim that they're right. That's what I read. I'm not too sure, but I read that Goldie Brar has gone on record and said that it did justice.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you see, so the context of the book can be really understood if you are following Punjab from 2011-12 onwards. The last decade in Punjab has, I mean, every day there was a different development which had not happened earlier. First of all, Punjab has, rarely seen a period of peace in 25 years, since inception. So there is always something. There is invasion. If there is not invasion, there is this freedom fight movement going on. Then there is partition. Then there is 65 war, 71 war. I mean, if we take up the recent history, and so since 2012, what was happened is that the terrorism had totally waned, and suddenly there was this influx of drugs, right?
Yes.
So in 2007, the World Drug Report says that Punjab is the transit point of drugs. But in 2012, Punjab became one of the biggest consumers of drugs. Then in 2012-13, you also notice suddenly mushrooming of Punjabi singers and Punjabi film industry, right?
Yeah.
And you will see so many gyms and salons opening in Punjab. So it is said, right, that lot of ill-gotten drug money, sand mafia money, liquor money, all was pumped into that, right? So, and that brought a new culture of singers, new problems in this. So you have to understand Musewala's murder from that context. And this is the period where the problem of gangsterism started. If you go back 1985, it was Dimpy Chandpan, who was Mukhtar Ansari, then his protege, Rocky. Only these two names were there before 2006 when Chandpan was murdered. So after that, Rocky becomes the boss. So nothing much happens in 4 or 5 years. Suddenly, Rocky starts wearing those infamous white kurta pajamas of politicians. And now he is a good guy. So he says that whoever follows me is okay. Others are gangsters. So he started killing them. So then, you see murder of Sheran Khubba. You see encounters of several others also. Sukha Kalma and others, So all these guys were not criminals. They were not born criminals. Dimpy Chandman had 35-acre land. There is another guy, Sandeep Pau, 100-acre land, all those. So all these, came out of that period where politicians were kind of supporting one set of people, Rocky Fazilka kind of people. So all that, led to a lot of gang wars. And in this gang war, there were people like Lawrence Bishnoi, who came to Chandigarh to become student leaders. But he had 110 acres of land and he is a royal. So he is only known to have followers. He doesn't follow anyone. So when you want to have followers and there is another guy who's also hyper masculine, so there will be fights, there will be brawls. And then the system is like this, ki, okay, these students have, they have a brawl. I mean, everyone in that age had a brawl or something, no? So police will book them and put them in jails where they will wine and dine with gangsters. And then the network starts. So you have to understand Musewala's murder from that context. Goldie Brar grouse is that his brother Gurlal Brar was killed by two shooters. Uh, One shooter's name I remember. It was, these guys have very funny names. You know, his name was Chaska. So he's from Mansa, and he just wanted to become big. And so he was actually doing Gurlal Barar's recce, and then he said, "Oh, there is Gurlal Barar. He's trying to get into his Fortuner car," and he calls up uh, the guy which Goldie Barar claims, some other guy, and he said, "Akha, aapke samne to maar do," and they killed him. And those guys were initially not caught. Then they were acquitted by Faridkot Court, and now I think just 10 days ago they were acquitted by High Court also. So Goldie Brar is saying that there is no justice in this world.
Right.
So he said that I will deliver justice. So this is how there is this chain going on, and it is going on. It is endless.
Yes, because I did read about that was actually going to be something I wanted to ask about the gangs and the supposed black money that is flowing into the music industry.
Yeah. So as I was referring to 2012, I came to Chandigarh in 2014 for 2 years. I was in Bathinda, and 2014 I remember the DGP was Sumed Singh Saini at that time, and in a press conference it was said that there are about 500 gangsters in Punjab, 500, and there are about 35 or 36 gangs. So 500 gang members means, you know, there are about, say, 50 who are top notch.
Okay.
At that, in 2014, they had not categorized it. Now you will find this is A category gangster, this is B category, this is C category. So, and you know, as DGPs changed, you know, and there were new press conferences and new crackdowns. So the number of gangsters increased instead of decreasing. Now there are officially acknowledged 500 gangs
500 gangs.
from those 35 and 2,000 gang members. And police has officially issued press release at least 4 or 5 times that they had launched a crackdown on the hideouts of gangsters. Only 2 gangsters, Lawrence Bishnoi and Jaggu Pagmanpuria. And their hideouts are more than 3,000 hideouts. And this is known to the police. So that means you always multiply it by
That is
5
multiplying.
of things known to the police.
And the
So,
gangs are multiplying.
yeah. So out of this, but still, you know, 10 gangs are which are known as the umbrella gangs. These are the gangs which have interconnectivity also.
Okay.
Right. And they have network also, and they have rivalry also. So problem is of these 10 gangs only, and they are connected with the ISI, they are connected with Khalistan movement also. They are connected with the Kashmiri drug smugglers also, Gujarat drug smugglers also.
And this is known to
Yeah, this is like we have been writing about this. Last 1 year, 60 encounters took place. I think about 63 to be exact.
and this is all in Punjab or Punjab gang.
Yeah, all in Punjab. Yeah. Rocky was killed in Himachal, I think, near Parvanu. Parvanu is in Himachal or
Parvanu
Haryana?
is.
Yeah, so Himachal has also some share.
I think let's then talk about the role of the Delhi government and the Punjab government, which you've also mentioned in the book. Do you want to elaborate on, you know, how they individually played a role? How did it pan out? You know, how does it work?
Well, you see, government, you don't have a direct evidence of things. So like Aam Aadmi Party was saying that we will end all VIP culture in Punjab. I think it has increased only. And they, it was on 28th of June, 28th of May. 28th of May, around 9:15 or 9:30. So Aam Aadmi Party has a media cell. And there was a lady who used to be the main admin. And she issued a, a PDF file of 424. Kanchan, correct me if I don't say some wrong figure, right? Kanchan, my wife, is also a journalist with Indian Express. She's my in-house editor. So, so then, you know, in those 424 persons, Musewala's name also figured. And so it was immediately flashed. I think by about 9:50, 9:55, it was viral, that list. And it is supposed to be a super confidential list. These are people who you're protecting, you know, and you have withdrawn their security and you're telling everyone ki jao maro ji wo khali hai. So no one is protecting him. So that day, you know, there is a phone call which was intercepted later between Lawrence Bishnoi and someone and Goldie Brar. And the shooters were already conducting his recce in his village. They were there since 25th of May. And next evening, they killed him. So that the release of that confidential document is like hugely questionable. And we have not seen the end of it. Like no head has rolled since that. Then center government, again, you know, these white kurta pajama gangsters, you know, these are what politicians are. They are very smart. They don't leave any trail behind. But then you can see some, you know, if you're observing them. So you notice that how Lawrence Bishnoi is having immense security with him. And Lawrence Bishnoi is giving interviews to media, which is like there are nearly 3,000 inmates in Punjab jails. No one else has been able to give an interview. We asked for access. We are denied that, but he got that interview. And that's another thing that High Court, you know, High Court had totally banned that interview. So he has some kind of influence. And so which makes you think and which makes you question that who's behind all this.
Just for everyone's understanding that when the day he was murdered, he had two less guards with him.
Yeah, he had 4 police gunmen, out of which 2 were withdrawn. One was unwell, and the 4th one Musewala didn't take with him.
You've also dedicated an entire chapter to his father, who is also lately in the news the last 2-3 days. What is his role in, you know, the entire investigation and, you know, his effect on Musewala, his life, his work?
Well, they are trying to rebuild their life as per the news reports, though a lot of journalists in Punjab knew that family is trying to have a baby now. And so news is already out about that. They have denied twins. So I wish them really luck that, you know, all goes well. It was very difficult to interact with him for long. Actually, one of the reasons for which I wrote that book was because I had recently lost my father. And so when all of you must have seen Balkaur's video where, you know, he takes off his turban and he's actually showing his gratitude to the sea of mourners who had come to, you know, just support him when his son's funeral procession was on. So I could not sleep for some days. I was very disturbed. And I wanted to know that man, you know, that what is this father-son bond? This was something I had not seen, that kind of bond. Like I saw Musewala, you know, his father lying on a cot and Musewala sleeping on his chest, you know. I had unfortunately not seen such a bond. So I was curious about that. And so I researched about him. Unfortunately, whenever I met him for the book, he was like surrounded by people and he had a lot of things on his mind. Musewala's unreleased songs, and then so many copyright disputes were going on. Then they don't know what to do with his legacy, what to do with the regular, this one, you know, how should I say it? A regular supply of money, you know, for his songs. YouTube only pays them 9 crore rupees for a month. So they, yeah. I mean, the entire T series doesn't get this from YouTube. Only Musewala gets it. So they have Musewala's worth is more than 500 crore rupees out of 900 crore rupees of total Punjabi music industry. So, I mean, they have so much to handle. It's a tough life. And I think the topmost is to see your son die like that. Uh, I because I worked there in Mansa.
You can. Are students there? No. We'll wait then. Okay, great. We're back.
Thank you. That was fast. That should be for the organizers.
Yes.
Please. Sorry, I missed the trail of thought. Yeah.
Yes, no worries, no worries. I also want to talk about whether we're going to see a movie on this now because it's such a huge.
Yeah, yes. So far we are, I have given the book rights to Matchbox Shots. It's a very, premier production house. And these are the guys who made Scoop web series on Mumbai Crime Reporter. Then they made Andhadhun also. And recently their movie Three of Us has got national awards. So I met that team. There were people who were offering me like some insane amount of money. But those people were, I didn't find them clean. So I went with these guys. And so currently we are in the writing stage, but it will take 2 years or 3 years at least for writing. So that's a very thorough work. That's a very, and so book will be probably, 2 episodes will be taken from the book and they will have 8 episodes. They, I think if all goes well, then Kohra's team, the guys, Suji, Gunjit and Sudeep, they will be there.
Right. Would you also like to touch on, the farmers' protest and the role that, Punjab has, especially the youth of Punjab? How are they taking it and, the entire connection with?
Yeah, farmers, it's a hugely complicated issue. I don't know if we will have time to discuss that, but yes, there is, we need to find a solution to their problem. Diversification is must, but by just saying that, you need to diversify, it's not possible. Farmers may be making more demands than are just, right? But we need to understand that no one leaves his house and sits on the side of a road. No one leaves the comfort of his house. So there has to be some very, very strong reason because of which he is leaving his family, his crops, and is sitting on the side of a road. So that issue needs to be addressed. And at the same time, coming back to that hyper masculinity, at the same time, Punjabis also have to evolve. I'm sorry to say this word, because muscle is no longer the power in this world. It's the IT, it is the AI and all that. You need a button and a link to a missile now to take on Pakistan. So we need to do a lot of introspection. Punjabis need to do this. Modern world will not thrive on muscle power.
Yes. And how effective is, how pervasive is technology, education in the heartland of Punjab?
I think technology, thanks to Geo uncle, it is everywhere free now. So Geo Reliance has made it possible for actually guys like Moosewala to, record their reels, record their songs, put it on YouTube. If the internet was not free, I'm not sure. I'm sure that, people working in the fields would have access to internet.
Yes.
So we owe big thanks to him, though he may be looting Indian government in some different way. So after all, he's a businessman. He has to have a profit this, So, but technology is now everywhere. I'm in a village guy, I think the son of my milkman would be knowing more about editing a video than me.
Surely.
So it's everywhere. And people are actually earning so much from reels and from these memes and all that.
Yes.
Technology is everywhere.
So we hope that more of Punjab uses it and they're able to.
Punjabis
With
are using it.
education.
Problem is they should not misuse it. Like I mean, not just particular Punjabis, but for all of us.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
youth in general. Yeah. My last question for you
Yeah, please.
is, will we find justice delivered at the end of this book?
For that, I will ask you to read the book, please. And so there are a lot of things which, because the case is sub judice and it is just it's now 2 years next month, in May. So there are a lot of things which I could not say directly, but I have dropped a lot of hints between the lines. So that can be made. But I have, I have this feeling that justice is delayed, but it is delivered, whether by a court of law, whether by a work of God or something, it is delivered. Jesse honor killing case is, I can quote it as an example. So she was killed 24 years ago. I mean, in June, it will be 24 years. And there were 14 killers, including her mother and her maternal uncle. Mother and maternal uncle were extradited in 2008, and when they were young, they were out. But when they were extradited to India, 2018, then they fought for some time, but they were in jail during that COVID time, you see. And I totally believe that spending 48 hours in a Punjab jail and a Punjab police station lockup is enough punishment for a man, right? So they have suffered it. So that is some kind of delivery of justice. Then out of, these two were conspirators, and the 12 contract killers, uh, 3 were convicted, rest were released. But out of the released persons, 2 died in a very, very bad road accident. A truck fell on them, right? And the another third guy, I think probably he died about 6 months ago. He could not eat anything for 1.5 years. He was in jail.
Okay.
Right. And so, I mean, justice happens
Delivered.
in some way. Not the Goldie Brar kind of justice. I don't advocate that, but it happens, yeah.
Thank you so much for this amazing talk and all your insights. And I hope you're all intrigued now to read the book, which I have read in page to page. It's quite outstanding, the work that has gone into it.
Thank you.
It's a lot of research and a lot of examples. I really loved the way you have put it together.
It was a difficult book to write.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But maximum stories of love are also from Punjab because of that bloodshed. He Raja, Saksin Kullu, Sahib, with all that bloodshed, maybe that is what is required. The love comes out of all that what is Punjab we talked about. Great book and absolutely outstanding session. Happy.
Great round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. It's always an honor to hear you on the stage. Thank you so much, ma'am, for moderating the session so beautifully. Now, may I request Avni ma'am and Shikha ma'am to felicitate other guests along with Nishtha ma'am. Please put your hands together. It was such an interesting session. You got so many insights about what happened. I guess the discussions are never going to end here because there is so much interesting things we are getting here. So now we are starting with the next session, but for that we are having a 5-minute break so that you can relax yourself, because next session we will be talking about from real to real. So I guess you know Shruti Seth. She is here with us and she is going to talk about mindfulness, right? So just relax yourself 5 minutes and the speaker and the moderator will be with us. Thank you so much, everyone. So very good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a great time having water and tea. Now we are back to our other session of the day, which is going to be very interesting. And when the speaker and the moderator will be on the dais and the stage, you will be very much happy to see these faces, very vibrant ones, because we will be talking about real to real. That is going to be very interesting, and along with mindfulness. So a lot of things are going on the same time. So I request everyone to take your seats, and now I request Sukriti to take over the stage and be the anchor of the show. Over to Sukriti.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What a wonderful session it was. Now let's move forward to our next session, Reels to Real. And the speaker for the session is none other than Shruti Seth, and the moderator for the same is Manju Ramanan. With over 22 years of diverse journalistic experience, including 16 years in UAE, she is distinguished TEDx speaker and a seasoned journalist. As a former editor in the head of content from Filmfare Middle East, she has demonstrated her expertise in her field. Her impressive portfolio includes ideating, scripting, managing, and executing numerous high profile events in the Middle East, featuring Bollywood, Pakistani, and Arab superstars. Her deep understanding for the region's culture and diversity is reflected in her work. Can we have a big hand? Ma'am, if you could call, like Shruti Seth, ma'am. Can we have Shruti Seth on stage, please?
So I guess what I said, that when you are going to see the faces, you are going to have all the smiles on your face. Shararat to yaad hai na? Yes. So yes, great round of applause. Why not? Come on, that's the audience of Shoolini. Come on. Okay. Hello. Good afternoon. Because my time is sometimes the UAE time, so my watch doesn't set itself. So lovely afternoon to all of you, and thank you, Shoolini, for calling me again for this beautiful season of spring and so many flowers. And I think we've had a lovely time here. Thank you, the entire team, Shoolini, for this beautiful experience. Well, I had a chance to speak to Shruti yesterday, and we were chattering like, I think, schoolgirls. Yeah, the beautiful thing is, her career is known by Shararat, that we all know, where she plays a teenage witch. And she makes miracles happen. And the episode quite defined her identity on television for a long time. But the beauty is, today, she is rediscovering that magic in her own life. So how the magic from on-screen comes to real life is what we are going to talk today. So we start, that's what we're going to start with. So we'll start with Shararat, and how did you get it, and what happened to that career, and then,
Firstly, thank you, Shoolini, for having me here. I was just telling all the kids that I'm so envious of them that they get to learn in this beautiful environment and to wake up every morning to look at the mountains and spend your time learning. I don't think there can be anything better than that. So thank you, firstly, for inviting me here. I had a lovely chat with Manju last night. I don't know if we have any more stuff to talk about because we chatted so much last evening itself. But jumping straight into it. So firstly, I'm very grateful that Shararat chose me to be a part of it. It is a show that has it has an entity of its own. It has its karma of its own. It is still living and breathing in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. To cut the story a little short because it will end up taking a lot of time, I remember getting a call from Zarina Mehta many years ago, and she just called me and said, "I want you to play a witch." And I said, "Okay." She said, I'm going to do the casting and I'm going to call you back. So I said, all right. And then she just disappeared from my life for 2 years. So I carried on. I did what I had to do. 2 years later, I get a call from Serena. Hi, I still want you to be that witch. I said, okay. I've done my casting. I said, all right. Farida Jalal is going to be your nanny. So I said, wow, okay. So we're going to shoot the pilot soon. I said, all right. I remember in the middle, those 2 years, of course, life carried on. I did a little bit of work that made me extremely miserable. I was constantly reduced to tears going to set, but one has to do what one has to do. And then I remember us reaching the set for the pilot shoot of Shararat. And I walked in and I saw Farida Jalal for the first time. And I remember going up to her and saying that, can I hug you? And she said, yeah. And then, of course, we're still hugging even today, all these years later. She's like a secondary parent to me. And I didn't know that we were about to forge a relationship that was going to go above and beyond just a television show.
And how many episodes?
So we shot, I think, over 200 episodes. We were on air for 4 years. After that, it got bought over by Disney. So it aired again. And I remember, there were families who would come up to me and tell me that, our kids have seen you at different timelines. So first, our older kids saw you on Star Plus, and now our younger kid is watching you on Disney. Of course, we didn't know that Star and Disney were going to end up coming together. And today the show is back on air on Hotstar. So it just doesn't seem to be leaving me, and I'm grateful for that.
So you're fans of all age groups.
Yeah, and sometimes when people look at me and they're like, "We grew up watching you," I was like, "How old am I?" Because you look quite old. So I said, "How many people have grown up watching me? Like, I don't get it." But I think what really is magical about Shararat is the fact that every time anyone who talks to me about it always has this glint in their eye.
Yeah.
And they always talk about the fact how it made them smile, how it still makes them smile. And I think to be attached to something like that, that has such a wonderful energy, is really just my good fortune. And I cannot be grateful enough for it.
But the essence of Shararat is the magic in our lives. So tell us about that magic that you think, has always been part of your life.
So yesterday, in fact, Manju and I were talking and we were discussing that we both, funnily enough, believe in the things that we cannot see. And that is magic, right? You can't see it, but it just keeps working. And I believe in serendipity. I believe that things come together because they're supposed to in your life. And all you can do is just be receptive. You have to, at some level, relinquish control of your own life and let it live and breathe on its own and just go with it where it's meant to take you. And I think being on that path of least resistance is really what serves you in the most magical way.
Right. We spoke about the path of least resistance. We also spoke about the fact that sometimes spirituality enters into our lives in terms of small incidences, but we don't recognize it at that time. But when we collate it later and look at it on hindsight, we realize there were patterns that led us to where we have reached. We've had so many instances like that in our lives. You spoke about your mother, who always kept you grounded despite your fame.
So it's funny because I was one of the first people in my entire family to end up in front of the camera. Nobody in my family has any background of the media. And obviously it was a first. And, the good thing about family is that they're just proud of you, even if you take a nap. Like, aaj hamari beti ne na dopahr mein 2 ghante so li, and everyone's sitting there congratulating you. So obviously what I did was like a big thing in my family. But my mother, I have to constantly beg her to be a fan, and she isn't. And I remember when I started working, of course, we didn't know where Shararat was going to go. And it really sort of, just became this really big thing in my life. And of course, family members would always sort of fawn over me, and my mother would be like, "Kya badi baat hai? She could be in a bank." I said, "But I'm not in a bank. I am on TV. So kya badi baat hai? It's okay. She's just an actor." And I had to constantly sort of play small as well.
Yeah.
And at that time, sometimes it used to really upset me. I said, why can't my mom just like enjoy my fame? And I think what I didn't realize at that point, and I was telling Manju, I realized it much later, is that like everything in life, even being an actor has its share of peaks and valleys. So there were days when I didn't have work. There were days when work slowed down. I felt like my time was up. And at that point, I realized what my mom had done for me is that she had taken off the burden of fame from my shoulders. And she made me believe that I was just an ordinary person. And luckily for me, when I hit my low points, is when that particular thing helped me the most, because I didn't carry it with that much gravity. It didn't pull me down. And I think I have to really be grateful to her that she set me free and she said, don't get burdened by what you do, because when you don't have it, it shouldn't make you question who you are. You have to stay independent of what you do. And for me as a mother, what you do as a person matters much more than what you do in your career. So I think I owe her a big thanks. I hope this is not going to air somewhere where she'll see
But
it.
you haven't told this to her
I will
directly.
never tell it. Which is why I'm saying, I hope this is not going to air somewhere. Then she'll find out that I was praising her. And the funny thing is that I thought that my mom was going to be the person constantly keeping me grounded till I had a daughter.
And she told you something
No,
very,
no,
very
you have
important.
no idea. Nobody can cut me down to size the way my daughter can. She just asked me, where are you going? I said, I'm going for a literature festival. Why? I said, because I'm going to be a speaker there. And she said, what are you going to speak about? I said, I don't know, whatever they ask me. Why do they want to hear you talk? I was just like, why am I getting the third degree from you? So I said, I don't know why they've called me. So I said, why don't you ask them? She was like, okay, give me a number. She was ready to
Ready
call
to speak
the
and ask.
university to ask them why they wanted to talk to her mother.
Wow.
So yeah, I think even if I ever wanted to fly high, I have two tiny hands and two very big hands holding me down and keeping my feet very firmly planted. So I'm grateful to my family for keeping things real, no matter how much time I spent in the real world. So
Also the fact that an artist's life is read by, like you said, valleys and peaks.
yes.
So how did you manage your values?
Uh, well, I think, you know, what did work in my favor is that I'm a thoroughbred Bombay child. So I never had to leave home to pursue my career in entertainment. My entire life was set much before I became an actor. So I had my friends, I had my family, I had my home. Uh, of course, one is human after all. So of course, when you miss out or when you lose out on things, there is a slight, pang in the chest. But nothing really shifted for me per se. My friends remained, my family remained, my house remained. I know that it takes a much bigger toll on someone who has left home, abandoned all things that are familiar and comfortable, and then moved to another city to build a life for themselves. For them to suddenly have to face failure cannot be easy, because it's such a big challenge, right? You've put yourself out there in the world, you're so vulnerable that even the tiniest sort of impediments tend to seem like these large, huge mountains that you cannot scale. Having said that, I think the one thing that I feel, which is absolutely essential for each and every person in life, is to learn how to fail. It is a skill that is not taught to us when we are young. And we're only taught how to succeed. Keep moving, get better, work harder. But nobody tells you that, okay, you will fail, and get okay with that too. And learn what the failure is trying to teach you. I think what happened for me, there had been series, in a 20 long career, especially as an actor. I was telling Manju, as of this very moment, I'm unemployed. I don't have work. So I'm not an actor sitting here today. Tomorrow, if I get called to a set, I'll be an actor tomorrow.
Right.
So one gets comfortable with being unemployed for a very large part of your career. But I think just before the pandemic happened, I was seeing a very serious slump. I think I was transitioning in my career. I wasn't getting the kind of roles that I would have gotten, but I wasn't ready for the kind of roles that were waiting for me. So it was in a very strange space in purgatory, and I wasn't being able to deal with that really well. And I'm going to, of course, just reiterate what I already told you. I remember one particular day, I was very, very, very sad. And I was almost teary-eyed. And my daughter said, Mama, why are you looking so sad these days? And I said, I don't know. I'm not getting work. And she said, so why can't you make your own work? And it was such an uncorrupted view of life from a 5-year-old's perspective. But because I came from a line of work where my ego was so fueled that I couldn't see beyond myself. And I said, how can I make my own work? I'm too big for that. And because I listened to her and I kind of kept that voice in my head, I remember when the pandemic hit, I said, okay, what can I do right now that can help me build my own work? And that's when I went back to studying. And it's like tasting blood again, learning. It's so beautifully addictive. You realize there is so much that you don't know, and you can spend your whole life and you will still not know. But the good thing is that you can pursue it forever and nobody can stop you. So I did so many online certification courses because they were all available online now. And I did Buddhist psychology. I moved on and did a course in counseling. I eventually moved on and did a postgraduate diploma in arts-based therapy. And then I went to Oxford last year to teachers training in mindfulness meditation. And as of today, I have my own work. I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I listened to my daughter and I managed to create my own work. And this would not have happened if I had not faced that slump in my acting career. It would not have made me pivot or move my gaze elsewhere to see, okay, what can I change in my life? Because when things are good and they're going in your favor, there's no reason to want to change anything, right? You want to just go with the flow. But it's when you hit the roadblocks, when you hit the speed breakers, that's when you're forced to sort of, recalibrate, to do a little bit of self-inquiry, saying, okay, what can I learn from this particular downfall?
Yeah.
And I feel that is what the valleys do for you.
Also, we are limited by our beliefs sometimes.
Absolutely. That we
And-
can't, oh my God, I can't do this.
And there's one question I want to come back to. The industry that you are in largely is known for its red carpet looks rather than the film festivals that people go to. So
Absolutely.
it's what you look is more important than how you speak. Your mind is less important than the way you turn out.
Yes.
So how do you address that, and how?
Look, the point is that I'm sure every industry has its own ills, so to speak, and it also has its pluses. So I won't demonize the entertainment industry, but yes, it does come with a slightly heavier weight on
Packaging.
appearance, packaging, how you put yourself out there. It's really weird. I actually had this conversation with a very dear friend of mine, Archana Puran Singh, many years ago. And I said, the acting career is the one place where your experience is held against you.
Held against you.
Yeah, because it's that many years, right? Oh, अब वो बूढ़ी हो गई हैं. अब उनसे होगा नहीं. But I have spent that much more time gaining experience. Shouldn't that work for something? Because that's how the rest of the world works. The more experience you have, the stronger your foothold in the industry should be. But the entertainment industry, sadly, doesn't work the same way. The moment you have too much experience, it starts getting in the way of you moving further. Now I have people calling me and saying, can you help us? Who's the new Shruti Seth? I was like, that's a bit harsh. You want me to find you my replacement? Why would I do that? But such is the nature of the
And
business.
ageism is something which
It's massive, especially for women. You're not allowed to age. It's very simple. You're not allowed. It's not permitted. I was telling Manju, the number of people who message me on Instagram saying how sad they are looking at me growing older. It's like, I don't know how to respond to that message. Like, what do I say? Okay, I'll just tell evolution to pause, I'll just tell my life cycle to just freeze right here. I said, how can I hold back aging? It is a part of life. And the pressure on women to constantly preserve their youth and the fact that nothing else is given any importance. Your skills, your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your achievements, everything is finally funneled down to how you look. That's it. You should look good.
Yeah.
So I need to look fabulous and everything else will be forgiven. but I can be really good at what I do. But if I don't look nice, I'm never going to get a chance to show it.
That's sad. That's what we're contesting. Do you think there's going to be change soon? Because
But there has been, I think a lot of things are changing. There's so many wonderful parts that are being written for women. I think the audience is starting to accept a lot of female stories. It is important for women who are in a certain position to start saying that, no, I'm going to own my age and you're just going to have to deal with it.
right.
Instead of handing over the mantle to someone else, saying, okay, you tell me how I should conduct my life. You have to tell people this is how my life is going. Now, either you celebrate it or you just get out of my way. It's literally that.
Also, a lot of film parts are written for older women as well.
Now, yes, absolutely. Still, the numbers are very small, almost negligible.
Right.
But I think I like to keep focusing on the wins rather than the losses.
Right.
Because otherwise, one can just be full of despair. And I don't think that's the way to move forward. You have to keep celebrating each win so that there are more wins and there are more parts written for more women across the board. There's more women coming into the fray, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. And I think a lot of that is shifting for sure, 100%.
Now we'll come to the second innings of your life, the
Yes.
real magic of your life, which is mindfulness and all that you did in those courses that you did. So how did it change you? What is the perspective that you have today?
So to actually just put it in one sentence, because I've done a lot of courses that do with healing, and therapy, I think the one universal truth that stays is that in healing others, you heal yourself. That is really all it is. That when you are able to be with someone and see their pain, it just teaches you empathy and compassion like nothing else. Because you realize that eventually, no matter how different we all look and we seem, and of course, there are so many differentiators in our lives, more or less, our struggles are the same. Our suffering is the same. We all want the same things, more or less, in different measures, but still more or less. If you ask any random person, what is it that you want in life? The first thing they're going to say is, I want to be happy. That is, everybody will say that.
Right.
Now, someone may try to find that path to happiness by earning more money. Someone may find that path by excelling in their career. Someone may find that path in looking after their family. But eventually, every single human being, if you ask them in their most, basic form, what are you pursuing? It's always the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
And what we don't realize is that I believe in this very strongly because I'm a bit greedy. I don't think I want to just stay happy for myself. I have learned to be happy for others because then that gives me so much more happiness.
Is it tough for a lot of, it's tough for a lot of people to be happy for others. Do you see that?
There's capitalism at play. We live in a system that's capitalistic where and of course, weirdly enough, I feel a lot of us, because we were very influenced by a Western paradigm, we started turning very individualistic.
Yeah.
And I don't think as Indians we are that. Not Indians, I think just the Eastern world is all about community. We believe in growing together, whether it's the Indian joint family or it's about living in a community. I have lived in Bombay, of course, there are only buildings, so you live in flats. I remember growing up for a very large part of my life with our main door open. So
and people walking in and walking out.
Our hearts were always open. We never sort of suspected that someone was deliberately going to
And
come
a
and harm
sense of
us.
privacy of it's just ours.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that I feel that the short way to find happiness, and I'm not saying I have found it, but I'm constantly trying. I realize that, every single person gets an education, they get a job, then they get a family, then they look after their family, and then one fine day, their time is up, and then they move on to another place.
Right.
Everyone can earn and spend on themselves. There's
Right.
nothing particularly remarkable about it, doesn't deserve any applause. But you realize that why is it that towards the latter part of your life, if you notice, if you do any sort of research with even the richest people in the world, maybe their wealth is ill-gotten, that's on them. But you notice that eventually they all
Move
veer
towards-
towards philanthropy because you realize that true happiness is gotten from serving others.
Giving.
And that is really all there is to it. When you buy something for yourself, of course you feel happy. But the moment you gift someone something and the happiness you see on them just doubles in measure, because it's not just one person feeling happy now. Now it's two people feeling happy. And the more you do that, the more you increase your radius of happiness. And I think that is what I've learned, because when I studied Buddhist psychology and when I went on to do arts-based therapy and of course move on to mindfulness, it's the one constant thing that kept getting hammered into our head, saying, you are here to serve other people. This is not about fueling your own ego. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about who you're doing this for. And your job is to do whatever you can in the smallest way possible to reduce another person's suffering. And I cannot describe it in words, but when I go and conduct classes, again, my teachers will hit me for saying me, my, I, all of that's not allowed. But like when you're out there conducting a workshop with, children at risk from a slum nearby and just seeing the happiness on their face, I can't describe the feeling I take back home. Nothing has ever come close. The greatest amount of adulation, love, recognition, fame, money, nothing has ever come close to that feeling. And it's very addictive, and I don't plan to give it up anytime till I live and breathe.
Beautiful. And that's outreach. That's
absolutely.
Also the fact that we're talking about mindfulness, but how do you see, how do you actually rein the mind and make sure that you're mindful at most given points in your life? And how do you come back to track every time it wanders?
So, I think one of the, unfortunately, it's a bit of a negative that works towards meditation and mindfulness is about wanting to rein the mind. You can't rein the mind. You have to just observe the mind. That is being mindful. It's not about, your mind will not stop working. You're not in a coma, right? Till you're living and breathing, your mind is going to keep working. That's what keeps you alive. But the idea is to observe it, to see what thoughts come, what thoughts take control over you. And that is really about being mindful, that you observe the mind, you observe the thoughts, and you never let those thoughts control you. You learn to slowly master controlling the thoughts. And that is being mindful. So to just help someone get a basic idea is, for example, I noticed that there is a manhole on the road. So now I'm aware that there is a manhole on the road. When I walk on the road the next time, if I fall into the manhole, I was not mindful. I was aware, but I was not mindful. So when I sidestep the manhole is when I'm being mindful, that I'm aware. Basically, trying to gain a certain amount of control over your awareness is you becoming mindful. So simple things, you're in a parking lot. You can see that there are 6 different slots open. Trying to just give it a little bit of a thought, saying, if I park here, maybe I'll leave room for another car on both sides. As opposed to, मैं अपनी लगा लेती हूँ, फिर वो अपना देख लेंगे. So it's just thinking about another person. And that's you being mindful, is when someone is telling you that they are in, I'm feeling cold. I've been given awareness. The moment I get a chance to shift the air conditioning vent another way, because the other person is feeling cold, is me being mindful about them. So it's constantly thinking about another person.
And how do you take this back to the acting space?
Well, honestly, one of the primary things in acting is all about reacting, right? You have to constantly think of the person who's in the frame with you. You have to constantly think of all the people who are around you that never ever get seen because they're all behind the camera. Simple stuff. If I am doing a scene, I can't say, okay, I'll learn my lines, but I won't learn my cues. But I can't just learn my lines. I have to know my cues, right? Because if there's someone else in the frame with me, they're going to give me a cue and then I'll say my line.
Right.
I'm not going to overlap their words.
Right.
I'm not going to steal their moment to shine because I'm only concerned about how I'm looking on screen. And that's one thing people don't understand, is that when you put a piece of, a content piece out there, especially if it has to do with multiple people in a scene, I can't make a scene look good just by myself. Everyone has to bring their A game to it for a scene to shine. For a film to succeed, all the people who are involved have to put in their very best. You can't work alone. You don't work in a vacuum.
So in a way, all of these remnants were always there in your life. You just put it together.
I
Tell
think
me
so.
about the Matrix, that message.
Okay, so it was funny because many, many years ago, I watched a film called The Matrix, and for some reason, it just took over me. And I got very fascinated by two particular dialogues in the film. One said, free your mind, and the other was, let it go. And it was much later in life when I started doing my courses that one of the primary things that you have to do when you're doing art-based therapy is you have to follow something called a subtle energy guide, which is based on Buddhist principles, which essentially teaches you very fine, very fine, refined emotions. So whether it's patience, generosity, the ability to be mindful and to constantly think that I am no one to decide another person's life experience. At that point, what you're essentially doing is you're freeing your mind of all the things that you are conditioned with. Things like hatred, like jealousy. Where do they come from? It's because I'm conditioned to believe that this person is not like me, which means they must be dangerous, which is why I must hate them. But who is to decide that I am the model human being? We all are different because different life experiences shape us. And to be able to accept the fact that we are all consumed by the same problems of the human condition, but in different variants, and still be able to sit with someone and say, okay, I will find a way to master freeing my mind of any judgment so that I can heal you or help you in ease your suffering. The reason why we can't help others is because we don't understand other people's pain. ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है, पर ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है, आपकी जिंदगी में नहीं होता है, पर किसी और की जिंदगी में हो सकता है. So to be able to free your mind of all the trappings is something that I saw in the movie, and then I finally learned it in art-based therapy. So it was so weird.
So the signals were always
And
there.
also, when I was studying for my course, there were a lot of things that kept getting in the way of me being able to finish my final project. And I kept calling my teacher saying, I'm sorry, I'm falling behind, I'm falling behind. And they just, from the first day of class, they had told us, we will teach you the skills. You do them the way you're supposed to the best of your ability. And then you have to trust it, that it will work. You have to trust it. You have to trust that process, that when you do A, B, C, D, E, it will equal up to this. But you have to wait it out. You have to be patient, and you have to keep doing what you're supposed to do. The problem with us is we're always looking at the end of the staircase, and that's why we never take the first step. And they kept telling me that if you keep walking the path will keep appearing. You have to trust it. And at that point, again, I realized that what I had learned from the Matrix, which was learn to let go, is you have to let go of control. I cannot control the end result of things. All I can control is my effort. All I can control is what I am bringing as my contribution. And then after that, I have to let it go. So both those things that struck me all those years, in the late 90s, finally sort of dawned upon me.
And culminated.
At this point in year 2022, when I finally got my postgraduate diploma. And I was like, which is why I said, I believe in serendipity, that if I retrace my steps, I know why I made all those choices, because they were all going to bring me to this point. Right. And that has really been the magic in my real life, much like Shararat in real life.
And the fact that you've also told your daughter is very fond of your series, and she thinks she's a daughter of a witch. She's a daughter of a witch.
I make her believe that I'm a witch, and that because she's my daughter, she's gonna have the powers as well. So I've told her, you have to keep believing in magic. Yeah, things will happen. You won't know how they're happening.
What a childhood that'll be.
Well, I don't know. I'll know about it when she's old enough to tell me that I traumatized her with lies. But I think it was sweet because I told her that, that her life is going to be full of magic. And then funnily enough, she ended up falling in love with the Harry Potter series. And now she thinks that at age 11, I'm going to send her to Hogwarts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And mom is cooler now because she
No,
was-
mom is
no.
still not cool. Mom will never be cool. But I think it's the one thing, all the kids, when I was taking photographs with them, they all kept saying, ma'am, you made us believe in magic. Ma'am, you made us. I said, the idea is to never stop believing in magic. Starting is one thing, but you can just never stop believing in it. And I really feel that that is one of the greatest ways to navigate life is to just believe in miracles. I don't believe in anything small. I only believe in miracles.
And if you can tell us one or two of the miracles that have happened recently, so that it's more reiterated.
Oh, wow. It's a little hard to say, but I don't know if I'll call it miraculous, but I've always sort of dreamt of, because I was a Bombay kid and I grew up in, the confines of a flat. I always dreamed of having a house with a staircase and a garden. It was like, the day I have a house where I have to go up the stairs and then I can look outside my window and there'll be a garden. That for me will be my dream house. And I started looking for an alternate property in Goa, and I was house hunting recently. And it was really funny because it had been shown to me, and I said, no, this is way out of my budget. I won't be able to afford it. And then miraculously, the developers came across, I don't know what their compulsion was, but they called me back and they said, okay, we've decided to sweeten your deal. And this is now our offering price.
Okay.
And I was almost in the process of finalizing something else. And before I could have gone and said yes to those guys, I got this message from the developers of this little house. And my mom, again, she keeps showing up everywhere. I spoke to her and I was obviously apprehensive. I said, Mom, I really like this house, but it's way out of my budget. I don't think I can have it. She said, you know what? Why don't you just set your heart on it and let's see what happens?
Intention.
That's it. She said, just set your heart on it and then you leave it. And then you see if the universe brings it back to you. And then that's exactly what happened. I walked away. It was funny because I went to see the house and I was very sick that day. And I ended up throwing up in the house. So the developers were just looking at me with like disgust.
You marked your
I
territory.
marked my territory. It was so funny. And my husband was standing there and he said, oh my God, you've left your DNA. Now we'll have to buy this house. And it was so funny because I puked in the house. I got out. And the next day, I got this message. I don't know if the price of the house dropped because I puked in it. Maybe. So I obviously ate something bad that got me sick, that made me puke there. And it suddenly all just made sense.
So that's also
And
part of
just before I came here, I paid a little token for the house.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So, thank you. I haven't got it yet, but but just to give you an example of how miracles just have a way of finding you. And I think I told this to you yesterday. For years, people asked me, so how did you decide to become an actor? How did you decide to become an actor? And I said, you know what? I never decided to become an actor. The acting profession just decided to choose me. And I said, okay, I'll come with you wherever you take me. And that is all I've done. I have never gotten in my own way. I step out of the larger scheme of things and I let them take control. And the least I have been involved with my life, the better the outcomes have been.
When you say that you have to get out of your own way, can you explain further?
So, like I said, it all goes back again to freeing your mind, limiting beliefs. We are constantly controlled by the things that have been used to condition us, right? आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते, आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते, आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते, आपके साथ ऐसा नहीं होगा, नहीं होगा. You start believing those things to the point where when you are at the precipice of things, you are always held back by saying, ye main nahi kar sakti. Because, so it's amazing because this is one of the lessons that you are taught during Buddhist psychology, where they ask you, what would you be, okay, if your name wasn't what it is?
Okay.
Right? It's a very interesting self-inquiry exercise. If you think about it, right? I'm Shruti. Now, Shruti is a person who is decided by her parents because they decided to call me Shruti. They decided that Shruti will be a certain kind of person. My friends have decided that I'm a certain kind of person. My daughter has decided I'm a certain kind of person. And people who watch me on screen have decided I'm a certain kind of person. But who am I really if I was not Shruti? What is my base state? To constantly recognize that I am what my mother said, you can never stand. My mother got me paranoid when I was little, constantly telling me, if you don't sleep, you'll be tired. It's basic science. But she got me so paranoid about not getting 8 hours of sleep that if I sleep for 7 hours, 59 minutes, I feel I haven't got enough sleep.
That's psyched into you.
It's been psyched into me. So I'm like, oh, I'm tired because I've only slept 7 hours, 59 minutes. And people are like, you're sleeping for 7 hours, 59 minutes. What is wrong? How can you be tired? I said, no, because my mother told me if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I'll be tired. So it has been hammered into me so much that now I believe it. And even if I sleep 8 hours and 1 minute, I still feel nahi, ab thoda zyada ho gaya. I should have slept exactly 8 hours. So I feel that constantly freeing my mind of what my mother thinks I should be, freeing myself of the judgment of what my friends have of me, that is one way of getting out of your way, saying, what is me without the name Shruti? What does she feel about this situation? Can I be able to do this or not do it just out of my own will? Not what is expected of me, not what has been hammered into me. And that is something that I feel a lot of students end up suffering because your teachers decide you're
Conditioning.
going to be a topper. And I have seen students in my class when we were in school. I still remember there was a boy who topped every year through 10 years of schooling. And of course, all of us had decided that 10th standard to yahi top karega. And he didn't. And all of us were more stumped than him, saying, but how can you fail? We all were rooting for you.
Yeah.
And it was the pressure that his family, the teachers, the students had all put on him. And what one doesn't realize is that, when you're in a class of 70 people, the odds are very high. But when you're in a board exam, the odds are very low because you're suddenly up against such a massive number of people that then to be able to accept that I can only do my best.
Right.
And that for me is one of the most important things to do, is that you have to get out of your way from the perspective of all that has been put into your head by the people around you. Do you believe in these things? Do you think you can or cannot do certain things?
Right.
And that is you essentially letting it go.
Beautiful. We'll talk about the power of intention that you think is very important to be set when you do something.
Yes. So like I said, my mom said, Dil man bana lo, phir ho jayega. And wohi hai, aap man bana lo aur ho jata hai. And it's amazing because if anybody has any experience of pranic healing, that is the one primary thing they tell you, is that all your prayers are said and then it says, so be it, right? Everything, when you take things like taking a medicine, I don't know what's in a pill. Yeah. But I am looking at it saying this pill is going to make me
Cure
better.
me.
I have already put my intention in that pill to make me better. I'm not in any way disregarding the miracles of science because I'm a huge believer in it. But why is it that some people get cured, even if you put two people together in an exactly same circumstance? I do believe that one person's intention of wanting to get better definitely catalyzes the effect of medication, of medical intervention, of prayers, of whatever. And which is what I said earlier, that all we can do is be receptive about everything in life. Every opportunity that is coming to you is probably sidestepping a lot of other deserving candidates and coming to you. So you have to be receptive.
Grateful and grateful.
And grateful, of course. But I'm saying that the intention of saying that I will do this, and which is what I told you yesterday, that if your intention is right, then even if the karma doesn't follow, the intent was correct and that will take you through. Whereas you may end up doing something, but if you do it without your heart, without your intention, it will probably not end up giving you the outcome that you were looking for.
So your intention has to be really, really set properly.
Sort
from the
of.
beginning.
Yes, yes. And I didn't get a chance to complete this with you yesterday, but there are a lot of things that we all learn in life and we feel, अरे यार, ये पहले पता होता ना, तो कितनी तकलीफें दूर हो जाती. But that is the nature of life, that you will only learn what you are meant to learn when the time is right. And all the things that you had to suffer, you just, again, have to just accept it and say, okay, it's teaching me something. I will only know this lesson in the future. So while I can wax eloquent with kids and say, oh, do this and do that, they will have to go through life the way they're meant to. The only thing that happens is that if you are mindful, you will probably save yourself a little bit of suffering. That's it. But you will suffer regardless. That is going to happen. And you should embrace it. Like we discussed, you have to embrace failure.
As much as you
It is really going to make you discover parts of yourself that you will never acquaint yourself with while you are successful. So when you are failing, please be kind to yourself.
I think that kindness to oneself is what I think we've been discussing. And the fact that we are kind to a lot of people in the world, but we are very, very harsh on ourselves.
Yeah.
How do you stop being harsh on yourself?
Well, it's not the easiest thing, I will admit, because, other than all the people who put various different expectations on you, the expectations that you have of yourself are only twice that amount. And it is a bit overwhelming sometimes, because I'm like, you know what? सब कुछ ठीक ही तो चल रहा है, अब इससे ज्यादा क्या करूं मैं, right? What more can I do? It's because there is, of course, Instagram has done no favors to any one of us, because we all feel like we're living a very compromised life. अरे ये तो छुट्टी पे जा रहे हैं यार, इनकी लाइफ देखो, ये तो बड़े मजे कर रहे हैं, हमें देखो, हम तो कहीं जा ही नहीं पाते. But the point is, you are where you are supposed to be. You have all the things that you need. And maybe sometimes you may not have the things that you need, but you will always be able to find things to be grateful for. So instead of looking at things that will make you feel inadequate, you have to very intentionally look at things that have worked in your favor. And I feel one of the best ways to become kinder to yourself is to keep on seeking gratitude. It has helped me in very good stead, constantly looking at every opportunity in my life as something to be grateful for. To be here right now in this moment talking with you, I am all here. I'm being very present. I'm not thinking of, "Arey, meri flight hai, arey, main late ho gayi to." I will miss out on this experience, and I will just add to my suffering from the future. If the flight gets delayed, it's okay. There'll be another flight to take. But this moment will not come back.
To be in the present.
To be in the present, and I think that is something that I have learned from my mindfulness teaching, is that a lot of us either live in the past or we live in the future, and we just really forget to live in the present. And you'll keep seeing it, saying, why am I always thinking of what I'm going to do? खाना खाते वक्त हम सोच रहे हैं, अरे हाँ, अभी लंच के लिए तो ये खा रहे, पर डिनर में क्या बनाऊं? अरे पर आप लंच तो खा लो. So there's a lovely thing that is said, especially when you're shooting. I remember back in the day, sometimes I had to do 2 shoots. So I would shoot from 7 to 2 o'clock. And then during lunch break, I would go to the other set. And every time when lunch was served, I would say, अच्छा, मैं भाग रही हूँ. And Farida ji would always tell me, खाना खा कर जाओ. I said, नहीं. She was like, यहाँ अन्न लगा है. यहाँ नहीं खाओगी, ठुकराओगी तो वहां पर भी नहीं मिलेगा. And she would always say, she was like, even if it means put a grain in your mouth, you are getting something here and now. Take it.
Wow.
Don't postpone it for what you are going to get in the future, because you don't know what the future holds. But if you are getting something here and now, just seize it. And that is your whole life. You are getting this right now. Just hold on to it.
Amazing. And I think we can keep talking, Shruti.
Yeah, I can be here all day. And these poor kids will just keep standing. I'm feeling very bad for them. Please sit down, guys.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, I think we are at the end of the session now. And thank you very much. There's more and more to talk to.
Yes.
But we'll end the session with a short
meditation practice. Would everybody just want to do like just something to just become a little still? Yes? Okay.
Waiting.
Yes, sir.
The last part is, I think, so apt for politicians.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay. Can I just have everyone just sit upright, please? Yes, just sit upright. You can take the backrest if you like. And if you are able to sit upright on your own, you can do that as well. All right. Can I just request everyone to very gently lower their gaze? And if you prefer, you can even close your eyes. I would like you to just become a little aware of your feet on the ground. Just feel a sense of grounding and rootedness. Let's move our attention to the base of the chair, the contact that it's making with your skin. Again, feel a sense of being rooted and grounded. Become aware of the verticality of your spine. And slowly you just move your attention to your breath. You may find it around your nostrils, the cool air going in and the warm air coming out. Or you may find it in your chest. A rise with every inhalation and a drop with every exhalation. Or some of you may just find it in your belly. Wherever it is, just simply stay with it. Taking deep inhalations in. And a long exhalation out. If at any point you feel uneasy, feel free to open your eyes to just get a sense of where you are. But continue to just observe your breath and stay with it. If you feel distracted by any of the sounds around you, it is absolutely okay. Just simply come back to your breath. Relax the forehead, the eyes, your cheeks, and just enjoy the cool mountain air. Feel a sense of stillness. And just enjoy the present moment of being here and now. I would request you to slowly take your head down. Gently open your eyes and fix your gaze near your feet. And now you can gently raise your head up. Thank you. Please carry this feeling with you through the day and enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, Manju.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for this calming session. Now, can we have PK Khosla sir and Saroj Khosla ma'am for felicitation?